Commissioners Glassman and McKenzie, could you please come to the dais? Great. I don't see Commissioner McKenzie. We're going to start anyway. Really? You couldn't do this 10 minutes ago? Okay. We'll just remain standing. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission meeting for July 6, 2021. Thank you all for being here tonight. So for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome, and I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. I know we had a tremendous weekend. The city sponsors so many different events, and I want to thank everybody, especially our Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you, Phil Thornburg. I want to thank our Business Improvement District folks, and of course, our police and fire personnel. Thank you so much for keeping us safe, and it was really a great event for everybody all weekend. So, yeah. So let us begin this meeting by, if I could please ask you all to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Mayor, I apologize. Normally, we would say this during the conference meeting in the day when we do our reports, but if we could just also take a moment of silence for a really incredible woman in our community who we actually did honor with a proclamation, but there was just recently a memorial service for Coach Marsha Pinder. She was the woman from Dillard who had served as coach for 44 years, recently passed away at the age of 70. Won more basketball games than I think anybody in the state, maybe even in the whole country. I think
Really?
she just fell shy of 1,000 victories. I believe she had 996 victories, more than any boys or girls basketball coach in Florida history. So I just wanted to add her to our thoughts as we did a moment of silence.
Sure, let's have a moment of silence on her behalf, if we could. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Moritas.
Here.
Commissioner Glassman.
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie. Commissioner Sorensen.
Here.
Mayor Trentalis.
Here, just a couple of agenda items. We're going to remove M2 regarding the motion authorizing execution of a revocable license with Nurmi Isles Homeowners Association, and also CR7. Item M is removed from the memo and exhibit to the resolution. Having said that, can I have a motion to approve the minutes and the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any corrections or modifications? There being none, so please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the minutes and agenda are approved for tonight. So at the beginning of all of our meetings, we usually ask the community to join us in recognizing people or events. Okay, people or events that are important to the community. And with that, I'd like to ask Commissioner Glassman if he could make our first presentation, which is a proclamation regarding July 10th, 2021.
Thank you, Mayor. My pleasure, and I would like to call up to the well all of our guests from Flockfest, and also, especially because I will ask you to make some remarks, we have with us Stephen Crawford, the founder, and also Bud is with us tonight, Bud Beeler. Gentlemen, if you all take your place, I'd like to explain to folks, because I have a feeling if I ask the crowd, how many people know what Flockfest is? Okay, so very few. So this is such a cool event in Fort Lauderdale. I'll be reading a proclamation celebrating the 7th year. So, David, how do I put all this up on the screen so people could see? So take a look at the monitors. I want you to see some recent events, and you'll know why this is such a cool event on Fort Lauderdale Beach. It's up. Just your typical mild day at the beach in Fort Lauderdale. And this is a surprise guest who told me that she might actually make an appearance at the upcoming Flock Fest. Can anyone recognize the family?
Is that the vice mayor in there?
That is the vice mayor. Check that out, who thankfully just gave us that photo. And there she is, swimming all the way in from the Bahamas on the Pink Flamingo. And she will be making a special appearance. So thank you, Vice Mayor Moritis, on your Flamingo with the family. And we really appreciate that. Thank you for contributing to the event. And now it's my pleasure to read from the Office of the Mayor, City of Fort Lauderdale, this proclamation in recognition of the 7th anniversary of Flockfest. Whereas July 10th, 2021 marks the 7th anniversary of Flockfest, the annual beach party fundraiser celebrating Fort Lauderdale Beach and the sunny paradise we call home. And whereas Flockfest has evolved into a strategic fundraising organization supporting a variety of more than 17 LGBTQ+ and ally nonprofit institutions across the greater Fort Lauderdale community. And whereas Flockfest's innovative mission makes them stand out among other organizations as their work is guided by the motto, quote, "a charity that supports other charities," unquote. And whereas Flockfest has established 49 ongoing community partnerships with local businesses in Greater Fort Lauderdale while engaging with local business owners to fundraise and support a variety of nonprofits supporting the LGBTQ+ community. And whereas since 2018, Flockfest has actively supported the LGBTQ+ community of Greater Fort Lauderdale by building community and participating in Pride Fort Lauderdale and Stonewall Pride with the Flock Buddies. Members of Flockfest dress in signature balloon regalia. And whereas since 2017, Flockfest has raised more than $87,000 for local nonprofits, including $20,000 in the last quarter of 2020 and $21,000 in the first quarter of 2021, all of which goes towards benefiting LGBTQ+ nonprofits in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Now, therefore, we, as City Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim Saturday, July 10th, 2021, as Flockfest Day in the City of Fort Lauderdale, and dated this, the 6th day of July, 2021, and signed by the Honorable Mayor, Dean J. Trentalis. Stephen.
Want to say a few words?
Stephen Crawford is the founder of Flockfest, and please, Steve, say a few words before we take a photo. Thank you.
I'm going to keep it really short. So on behalf of the Flockfest board, I just want to thank the mayor, the commissioners, and the city of Fort Lauderdale for all your support. And we look forward to seeing everyone on Saturday. Thank you.
So what time does it all start on Saturday? 11? Until when? 4. Okay. So we'll see you then. He did, yeah. I just spoke with him. Yeah. Thank you. See you. It's okay. Thank you so much. Absolutely. one of the many fun things we do in Fort Lauderdale Beach. Now I'd like to introduce our police chief. Where are you? Chief Lynn is going to make a presentation regarding our officers of the month.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for assisting us with this this evening. Appreciate that. So at this time, I'd like to invite Sergeant Jeffrey Newman and Officer Adriana Escobar up front, please. They're being recognized this evening for Officer of the Month and the Life Saving Award, and I'll read the letter. On Sunday, April 4th, 2021, officers responded to 800 Northwest 22nd Road in reference to multiple shot spotter alerts. Officer Adriana Escobar arrived on scene and discovered a large-scale shootout had taken place and a small child had been shot. Officer Escobar located a 6-year-old child who had been shot through the bicep and was bleeding profusely. Recognizing the child's wound was life-threatening, Officer Escobar requested EMS and began to render first aid. After applying a tourniquet to stop the bleeding, Officer Escobar proceeded to check the child for additional injuries. After confirming the child was only struck once, Officer Escobar comforted the child while keeping her alert and conscious. As Officer Escobar rendered aid, Sergeant Jeffrey Newman took control of the chaotic scene. After assessing the situation and directing additional officers to essential tasks, Sergeant Newman noticed the tourniquet's windlass became loose and the victim was bleeding once again. Sergeant Newman secured the tourniquet and applied hemostatic gauze directly to the wound, also known as clot stopper type of stuff. Officer Escobar helped carry the child to the awaiting rescue unit while Sergeant Newman continued to manage the scene. The child was transported to the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Due to Officer Escobar and Sergeant Newman's professionalism and effective use of their incident management training, a child's life was saved. They are an asset to the city of Fort Lauderdale and residents they serve and are hereby commended for a job well done. And if I may just add to this, this letter does not in any way do justice to what actually occurred that night. This was a situation where hundreds of people have gathered. Several people were involved in a shootout. I think over close to 200 rounds were fired. This was a child that was shot with an AK-47, and they saved her life. So excellent job. Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So at this time in our meeting, we now move on to what's called the consent agenda. Purpose of the consent agenda is to allow the commission to vote on a number of items all at once that are normally non-controversial. If there's a commissioner that chooses to pull one of the items, that will be discussed and voted upon separately. If that item is pulled and you're here on that item, you'll be allowed to speak at that time. If no item is pulled, then any of the other items that you would like to speak on, now would be the time to make that request, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes in which to speak on that particular item. So first, let me ask the Vice Mayor, do you have any items you'd like to pull?
No.
Did you say no? Commissioner Glassman?
Thank you, Mayor. CM4.
CM4? Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Sorensen?
None. Thanks, Mayor.
So except for CM4, if there's someone here who wants to speak on CM4, you'll be able to speak on that item when that item is addressed. Right now, if there's another item on the consent agenda item that you would like to speak on, now would be the time to make that request. Is there anybody that wants to speak on any consent agenda item other than that? None has signed up for that, so I just assume there is none. Okay, so except for CM4, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the consent agenda items except for CM4 have now been approved. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This, maybe Chris can help me a little bit with this, but on this particular item, I actually went back to some of the notes and some of our conversations as a commission. So Chris, if you could help me with that, and I'll just take 1 second here to find in part of this rental fee, can you please tell me how much of that would be the cost to move half of the clerk's office to the 101 tower?
I believe this new office space here, and reading the CAM of 1,603 square feet, and I believe it amounts to about just shy of $60,000 on an annual basis.
So roughly $60,000. And how many of the clerk's office will be going to the 101 tower?
I have to ask Jeff to help me with that.
3.
3 out of a total of how many?
3 out of 6
So half
full-time,
half the department from the clerk's office will go to the 101 tower,
not including Jeanette.
not including Jeanette. Okay, so roughly $60,000.
Are you moving out of the building?
We haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
We're looking at what is logistically practical on who would stay at City Hall versus who would go. Who would be who works with the city manager's office, contracts, all the stuff that we do, routing, what would be logistically the best.
I personally don't think it's a good idea to split the clerk's office and move half the department to the 101 tower. So when I went back to my notes and I went back to previous meetings, we actually did have a discussion of the 8th floor commission space on April 7th, 2020. And then on September 1, 2020, we actually had an agenda item, a resolution, and it passed 3-2 to reconfigure the 8th floor at a cost of, I'll find that right here. It was at a cost of $97,500, and that passed 3-2 on that evening. So then we were led to believe that we were going to have a reconfiguration of the 8th floor for $97,500. And then after that, that didn't really seem to happen. And then after that, we actually did get an email from the city manager offering to move the city manager's offices to the 101 tower and then use the entire 7th floor for the city commission along with the 8th floor. So Chris, if you could just help me understand what happened with the original item that passed 3-2 to redo the 8th floor for $97,500, and then subsequently your offer to move your offices to the 101 tower, and then how we got to here now, where we're going to spend $60,000 to send half of the city clerk's staff to the 101 tower.
I could do the best I can, yes. This has been one of those ever-changing targets as to what the space needs of the commission are. We did appropriate that money, and it did pass 3-2. We were able to bring a renovation project in at about 70% of that cost, which is the way the space is configured today. So with going with the office spaces and the cubicles that are there now, that spent about 70% of what was allocated for the space.
Roughly $70,000.
If we want to start at 100 and say 70%, that's in the ballpark.
Okay.
That space is indicated by the commission is still not sufficient to meet the space needs of the commission, and so naturally the first reaction I had was to be willing to move some of our staff out of the building from the 7th floor to free up space. That didn't go over well with the commission. The city clerk now is being generous and offered up some of his staff to move from the space. And this if this item passes tonight, that would be the path forward. That is the direction I believed that we received at the last meeting when we were discussing 8th floor space, and I at least walked out of that meeting thinking I had direction from a majority of the commission, but that's why it's in front of you tonight.
And then how did that email happen when you sent us that note? I think you sent us October 22nd of 2020, where you were offering to move the city manager's offices to the 101 tower and freeing up the whole 7th floor for the city commission.
Well, it wouldn't have freed up the whole floor, but it certainly would have freed up another ability for 2 additional commissioners to move down, where the clerk space, I think, affords 1 additional commissioner. Recognize that the 7th floor is still shared with the city attorney's office as well as the clerk and the manager's office. So that was the initial offer back then, and we simply just don't have any additional space on the 7th floor to move anybody into until I move somebody out.
Okay. Those are all my questions, Mayor. It just seems that we've gone in so many different directions on this. And I'm just wondering, especially if we are eventually going to have a joint campus. I know that's a few years down the road, but when I went back and read through the minutes, a lot of the objections actually to the original $100,000 allocation were, why are we doing this? And it's too much money now to be spending at this point in time for this, and we should be able to, exist up there as we always have. And I'm not going to get into the detail of all of the minutes, but basically there were just a lot of questions back and forth determining the needs. And one line that did stick out was the initial goal was to look at design from the perspective of a short-term additional space solution while maximizing the costs. So that's all. I just found it strange. I don't understand if it makes sense even to split the clerk's office. Some offices I can understand, like the attorney's office can be in different locations, but I think the day-to-day work that happens from the clerk's office is something that almost necessitates them being together and being in one office and being here. But again, that's just my opinion. But it does just strike me as strange, the path that this has taken with the office space allocation. Thanks.
Well, I believe we are at this point because it was determined that Commissioner Sorensen needed additional space, and that the configuration that's now been created kind of I don't believe Commissioner.
I don't think it was that I needed additional space, Mayor. I think
No, it's not that you needed additional.
Well,
It's
that's
just
what
that
you
you
just
kind
said.
of got squeezed out with all the different.
I think this was all of
Sorry,
us
I didn't mean
wanting
to. I didn't mean
additional
to sound like-
space.
No, it's not that you needed the space, but
Thank
the
you.
way it was all configured, it kind of boxed you in, and you and therefore we were looking to try to accommodate what you should have, and that was only available on another.
That's not what we talked about last meeting. It was Vice Mayor and Commissioner Glassman were having challenges scheduling in the same conference room. Mayor, I don't know if
No, I wasn't having any challenges.
I'm
you
just going to
both
take my
were.
flamingo
Yes.
and go float.
you were.
No, no.
Take your flamingo and
Vice
go
Mayor,
home.
Go home.
Not me. I didn't have any.
You were
I have
good?
no scheduling challenges.
Okay.
I'm
All right,
good.
so
Great.
why are we in this posture then? So explain to me. I thought
We agreed on a solution, I thought, last meeting.
I think we already solved this.
Yeah, I think we
we're
did. I
just
don't know.
we're just floating in flamingo circles. So I think we can
what
move
have we
it and
solved?
improve it.
So maybe you can enlighten the rest of us. What have we solved? You said we think we resolved this.
I thought we did solve it 2 weeks ago. Jeff, are
Well,
you okay
solving
with
it
half
by
your
kicking the
office
clerk
being
out
over
of the
there?
city hall doesn't make sense to me.
So if we can all work remotely for a year and a half, I think Jeff can work across the street. Jeff, do you agree?
I think our office will operate fine, being split. I characterize our office and our team as a professionally mature group, and I don't think it'll have any impact on how we operate.
And I'm sure they're actually happy about going over there because it's a lovely space
It's also $60,000 a year.
out of 3,500,000.
Well, I'm just saying, well, okay. I'm just trying to
What percentage
understand.
is that?
I'm just trying to figure
Right.
this out. And the 3 million 500 is a 4.5 year lease, and so $60,000 is about 300,000. So it's 1/10 the total cost here. So it's not 60,000 compared to 3,500,000. It's 300,000 compared to 3,500,000.
So we have many discussions on budgetary items, and we give millions of dollars away to nonprofits and everything else. And honestly, the space that we agreed on 2 weeks ago, it does work for all of us. If you all want to discuss budget items and what we should allocate, maybe we shouldn't give so much money away so that the commission can each have adequate space to work.
Okay, but you say that you're okay with that. Okay, so this will accommodate allowing Commissioner Sorensen to have a space on the 7th floor. That's really what we're working towards.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Do you have any other further comments?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So, you want to move the item? Who
No.
wants to move the item?
So moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
No.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Oh.
Taking my flamingo now. Now's a good time for the flamingo. That's a big one. Go ahead. Ben, do you still have that tent that you used previously?
Yes.
Maybe I'll just borrow that. Go to the
Well-
library.
Is this a year-to-year lease?
I believe all of our annuals are subject to appropriation, so by default they are.
All right, so this is, we're just committing ourselves for a year to this space for the city clerk?
Yeah. No, I believe, probably could do it in an emergency if we needed to, but I think you're looking at 53
Looking at
months.
300,000, we're not looking at 60,000.
$3.48 million.
Well, what happens if we find that the clerk's operation is becoming dysfunctional because of the separation between you, the city commission, and the city clerk's office? We are now, we're now bound by this.
I would probably start shuffling. I mean, these are all funds that are paid for from the general fund, so I'd look to other general fund positions or spaces that
Would
could
we,
move.
would we be able to move other departments there?
Could potentially. I mean, right now we're really focused on one floor, and so we started there. We've obviously got every other floor in City Hall. I would look towards a general fund department to do the swap out with for 3 spaces. The smaller departments are already over there. That's the thing. So like strategic communications, which is a smaller department compared to like a public works or a finance department, they're already there. So there's really not, you're not going to find a department that you can just take 3 people and it becomes the whole operation.
Right. Okay. Well,
John Herbst is over there also, so you have another charter officer over there. So I think Chris is probably still working well with John, and I think you all are working well with
I
John.
like the auditor over in the other building.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
Rufus, you want me to come to the airport?
all right, I voted for.
You don't have to answer that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where Bruce Roberts went. He
Bruce,
wanted an
Bruce had
office
2 offices. One was
Yeah,
at
but he
the
put
airport.
one out there. And for the record, let's just be clear about what's going on here, okay? I think Commissioner Glassman kind of hit it on the head. The first initial agreement, the 3-2 he spoke to, was all of us. Something personal happened with me. I left the floor. And then when they went back as 4, the new configuration came from these 4. I had nothing to do with it. I walked out of the meeting.
Not me.
I even gave my office up during that time to accommodate more space. The only comment I made was if you're gonna redo the commission office, make sure you have enough room for future 4 commissioners and a mayor. That was my comment. And now we're here, so what I'm voting against is moving the clerk's office to accommodate this. I just went downstairs. And the money that's associated with it. I think we can find a better solution, but that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And my explanation right now is for me and the public. the money. I do not support moving the clerk's office out of this building.
Okay, so the item's approved, and now we're on to M1. Motion approving a subaward agreement between Broward County and the city of Fort Lauderdale for funding of COVID-19 non-congregant hotel program. Someone like to move the item? Hello?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. And I want to thank Broward County for assisting us in this regard and continuing our effort to help the homeless and to ensure their health, safety, and welfare and help find them a way out of homelessness. So thank you, Broward County. M2, motion authorizing execution of a revocable license. Wait, we're taking this off.
Was removed.
Sorry.
Correct.
Okay, moving on to R1.
Mayor, may I ask a question on that?
No, it's not on the agenda. Yeah,
Wha-
go ahead.
Chris, why was this item deferred?
It was removed at the request of the neighborhood.
For what reason?
I guess we're going to continue to look at the revocable license and the language in it. I think there was some concern. It was indicated that it was provided, and their attorney was not able to review it prior to tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
You good?
We'll be moving forward with Rio Vista at the next meeting with the same language. So I hope that it becomes the template language that we can live with.
Okay, because I was going to ask that because I know other neighborhoods were interested in the license plate reader camera program. So when we come back from break, we're going to see it from another neighborhood,
Correct.
the language that was in this particular agenda item,
That is correct.
same language.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, and it's also coming to the landings too, right?
Correct. I
So
just,
they did bring up a few concerns about it last night at my pre-agenda. Just, nothing specific, but just having the time to look at it too. So if you make modifications to this language, will then it carry on to the other two neighborhoods that we discussed?
I mean, we can not have the same language in every agreement, but I think if we get the first agreement passed, that it becomes a logical template that we start from.
Okay.
Can I add to that, Alan? So we're not talking about a typical license plate readers that go through our agency, which is our police department. We're talking about now a HOA or a group of private people wanting cameras to view license plates. Am I correct for understanding that way? Or am I reading it wrong?
They will be owned and operated by the HOA. We'll have a separate agreement to share that data with the police department. My understanding, though, I have to double check. I have to go back and read. But I don't know that the HOA actually has access to the information itself because it's not something they can actually understand. You have to have special equipment to be able to decipher that information. So I don't know that they actually have access, practical access to that information, but I have to double check. I got to read through.
But is that legal for the private sector to be able to read license plates?
Well, they're not technically, we would be. They're sharing the information with us.
So they're collecting the data and then they're submitting it to the police.
I get all that. I have readers all over my district, but they're controlled by our police department.
Correct.
We're talking about citizens wanting to read tags. How does that work?
I
I'll
don't,
tell you what, wait. This is not an agenda item.
No, but everyone it was here early when I had my pre-agenda meeting.
I understand that, but it's not on the agenda right now.
So all I want to know about is the legal piece, which you just said we're going to see it next month, and they worked out the legal piece. So I'm questioning the legal piece. That's all.
it's a very,
And I understand your questions, they're perfectly legitimate, but I don't think they're appropriate tonight because it's
Okay.
not an agenda item.
Well, do we have
but
to
it's-
vote to
it's-
defer
it's a
this?
good-
Okay.
Do we have to vote to pull it or defer it or anything?
We deferred it
No,
at
you
the
could-
approval of
anybody
the
can
meeting
pull it.
agenda.
Okay. I'm cool with it. I'm good.
but
Yeah.
it's a very valid question, and I'll get you the answer.
So yeah, I want that answer, but thank you. You're right, Mayor. Thank you.
And I
Sorry.
believe the
I
issue
know the
here,
answer to that question too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, R1, appointment of board and committee members. You want to read the names, Mr. Clerk?
For the next meeting in August, we have a reinstatement for a consensus board, Beach Business Improvement District Advisory Committee, Bosler Kusich. For tonight's resolution, Aviation Advisory Board, Robert,
Wait. Which committee?
the bid.
Oh, the bid. Okay, I thought it was the Beach Redevelopment Advisory Board. Sorry.
They sunset already.
I was wondering.
For tonight's resolution, Aviation Advisory Board, Robert Laughlin, nominated by Vice Mayor Moritas. Valerie Vitale, nominated by Commissioner McKenzie. Cemetery System Board of Trustees, John Lilly, nominated by Commissioner Sorensen. Code Enforcement Board, Julie Lurie, consensus, nominated by Commissioner Sorensen. The Metropolitan Planning Organization Citizens Advisory Committee, Anthony Wright, nominated by Commissioner McKenzie. Public Art and Placement Advisory Board, Robin Vegas, consensus, nominated by Commissioner Sorensen. And that rounds it out, Mayor.
Okay, do I hear someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing or nominating, if applicable, board and committee members as set forth in the exhibit attached hereto and made a part hereof. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the resolution is approved, and thank you all those individuals who have agreed to give your volunteer hours to those committees and boards. We really appreciate your help in helping fulfill the business of this community. R2, resolution of providing notice of intent to enter into a comprehensive agreement for a qualifying project submitted as an unsolicited proposal, and notice of intent to accept other proposals of the same subject. Do I hear a motion to introduce the resolution? Is the resolution introduced?
Is this boring?
You have to specify also the time frame.
It's not specific. What is it?
Let me see, hold on.
Boring, isn't it?
And according to section 3, for a period of 45 days after the initial date of publication.
So
Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
It's been
Right, you have a
introduced.
question? No.
Any questions?
yeah, what is it?
This is for the tunnel project.
Oh, because it's not. It doesn't say that. It says surface public transportation system notice to accept the proposal for the same project. So I just want to make sure
I get it.
it's the tunnel project.
And Mayor,
We have one person who has signed up to speak on this.
Mayor, do we do the time limit as part of this, or do we do that separately?
No, that's part of this. You
That is part of
determine
it
what the
for the
time frame will
45
be. For
days?
this.
Look at the.
Okay. Okay. And again, I do want to reiterate for the record that when we do send this out for 45 days, that this will be, Alan, specifically for subsurface transportation along this route, or will it be open to any form of transportation along this route?
A subsurface public transportation system connecting downtown Fort Lauderdale with Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Thank you.
I mean,
Means it's subsurface
Below ground. Yeah.
only, and it's public transportation. It has to be public transportation. Subsurface between beach and downtown. That's the proposal that's before you, and that's what you would be
okay.
under the statute advancing.
Mr. Hancock, are you in the audience? Mr. Hancock, Dane Hancock? Yes, come on up. You signed up to speak on this, right? R2. Good evening, Mr. Hancock. You have 3 minutes.
My name's Dane Hancock. I've been a professional engineer, state of Florida, since 1970. The proposed tunnel to the beach.
Mr. Hancock, can you just speak up so I can hear you?
Pardon me?
Can you
you
speak
speak up a
into the
little bit?
microphone, please?
Yeah, it's right here.
Thank you, sir.
The proposed tunnel to the beach, logistic problems are really unsurmountable. Bad soil conditions, staging areas on each end, ventilation to introduce air and remove exhaust, fire suppression, passenger escape routes, flooding, emergency access and removal of disabled vehicles, emergency power, rate of transport, and funds to build and any return on investment. Let's go back to number one, the soil. The state of Florida commissioned Dr. Charles Finkel and Dr. Manikowicki to do a study on the soil conditions in South Florida. They published a paper. It's the Southeast Florida Coastal Zone. The part that pertains to this is the submarine groundwater discharge. They found out that the underground discharge from onshore to offshore have an average velocity of 30 meters per day, a maximum of 64 meters per day. That comes out to almost 1 million cubic meters per day, or 360 million cubic meters per day. They found at Palm Beach alone, the annual onshore to offload discharge of fresh water through the different layers was 1.6 billion cubic meters a year. The soils are not static. The soils are very, very active. And you're about to do the same problem, the same fatal mistake that was done with the streetcar. You got the cart before the horse. You had the design done for the streetcar. It was designed on a beam on elastic foundation, which is soil supported. It's the most economical. Parsons, on the first page, clarified their design, said it is dependent upon the local soils having a specific minimum value. 6 or 7 years later, you do the soils. The soil report comes out and say you've only got 10 to 12% of that capacity. You got the cart before the horse. You do the soil borings first, determine it's feasible before you do the design.
All right, thank you.
If anybody wants Finkel's, Manowski's book, it's very, very interesting. If you want, I'll give you my email and I can send you a copy. Thank you.
Mr. Hancock, just so that you know, that is the intention, to now proceed to do the soil borings. And if you, just for your information, that is now our intention, to proceed with soil borings and continue. Okay, just let me finish what I have to say. Okay. Sir, I just want to let you know. Okay, I just want to say to you that we intend to do soil boring investigation, and we also have 2 tunnels in the state of Florida. One is in Fort Lauderdale and one is in Miami. So they're not insurmountable challenges. Thank you for staying here and listening.
He's gone. Just send him a copy.
Captivated.
Send him a copy.
Captivated audience.
You really captured him. Beautiful.
Your
Sorry,
videos.
I can't seem
Just
to hold the attention of my audience
Falling.
here.
Good job, Mayor. Good job, Mayor. Captivating.
All right, the resolution has been introduced. No one else has signed up to speak. Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, providing notice of intent pursuant to Section 255.065 Florida Statutes 2020 to enter into a comprehensive agreement for a qualifying project to design, construct, operate, and maintain a subsurface public transportation system connecting downtown Fort Lauderdale with the Fort Lauderdale Beach, and notice of intent to accept other proposals for the same project and providing for an effective date. Commissioner
So
Sorensen?
are we closing the public hearing?
There's no public
There's
hearing.
not.
I mean,
A public guy
I
spoke.
know, but there was public hearing, but I don't think we have to close public.
No.
No, it's not a public hearing.
Okay.
Commissioner Sorensen?
yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. R3, quasi-judicial resolution approving plat known as 2980 West State Road 84 and repeal and replace Resolution 20-250 located at 2980 West State Road 84, the Robert L. Elmore, Pamela K. Hayes trustee. I think that meant to say Robert L. Elmore Trust, Pamela K. Hayes trustee. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Vice Mayor, do you have any disclosures?
No.
Commissioner Glassman?
No.
Commissioner McKenzie?
None.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Met with council.
For some reason, I think I did speak with somebody here. Is there anyone here, R3? Dina Gray, you're here to speak. Did we ever meet on this?
Dina Gray, representing the applicant. This is a plat that was approved back in December, so we spoke back then.
Yeah,
We're
I
just doing a
remember.
minor revision
I remember
at this time. So we're in agreement with this staff report, and I'm here for questions.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to close public hearings?
So move.
Do I hear a
Second.
Second?
Yep.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Do I hear someone introduce the resolution?
And this is approving a plat.
This is to approve the plat.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a plat entitled 2980 West State Road 84, repealing and replacing resolution number 20-250 and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the resolution is approved. R4, quasi judicial resolution vacating a portion of an open space easement located at Southwest First Avenue between Las Olas Boulevard and the New River, the Las Olas Riverfront LP. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Vice Mayor, do you have any disclosures?
R4, I do. I had a phone call with Dev Matwani on July 1st.
Okay, Commissioner Glassman?
I had a phone conversation with Dev Matwani on June 9th, 2021.
And Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, the owner.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes, the owner and representatives.
I had the same disclosures as well as a site visit. Okay, so Courtney Crush has signed up to speak, but only for questions. Do you have anything you want to add or comment regarding it? You're good? Okay. All right, will someone please move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, vacating a portion of open space easement recorded in the official records book 29285, page 1943 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, being the east 22.25 feet of the vacated Brickell Avenue right-of-way adjacent to Parcel A Brickell redevelopment plat, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 147, page 27 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located north of the New River, south of West Los Olas Boulevard, east of Florida East Coast Railway and west of South Andrews Avenue. All said land situate, lying, and being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. Now you go home and watch this on TV.
Of course. You lost
We'll be done.
in your audience.
We'll be done.
Yeah.
Stuck in traffic.
Moving on to public hearings. Resolution approving the lease agreement for the city-owned property located at 2000 Northeast 16th Street, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, known as the Fire Prevention Bureau Building, to the Fort Lauderdale Professional Firefighters, Inc., IAFF Local 765, pursuant to Section 8.13 of the Charter. I have no one signed up to speak. Anyone wishing to speak on this? Scott, you're good.
He's in the lobby. Good.
Where did he go?
He's in the lobby. He's good. He's on the sofa out there.
Introduced.
I think we have to close public hearing.
I didn't think we opened it. Okay.
Well,
Move to close.
There you go.
Second.
Second.
second,
Commissioner Sorensen,
You're nice.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
yes, public hearing is now closed.
He's back.
Who's introduced it?
Introduced.
He's at the door now.
There he is.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing execution of a lease pursuant to Section 8.13 of the City Charter of city-owned property known as the Fire Prevention Bureau building located at 2000 North 16th Street, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33304, as more particularly described below, to Fort Lauderdale Professional Firefighters, Inc., IAFF, Local 765, a Florida non-for-profit corporation, to be used for purposes consistent with the public good for a term not to exceed 50 years at an annual rent of $1, subject to further terms and conditions, repealing any and all resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, authorizing execution of same by the proper city officials, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentals?
Yes. And the lease agreement is now approved. Thank you.
Watch out for those neighbors across the water.
Exactly.
Really?
So, moving on. PH2, public hearing, resolution granting a waiver of limitations at 1207 Seminole Drive for the installation of one finger pier and one wooden mooring pile. I have people who've signed up.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. 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 So-
Really?
Yes.
Yes,
So
we
have,
discussed this at length at my District 1
Catalin,
meeting too.
is Catalin here? There you are. Would you like to come up? Followed by Richard PC? Yes. Please come up to the podium.
To the-
First time, huh?
And 3 minutes.
Who else?
Here, Chappelle.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So my name is Catalin Vandenherk. People know me as Tika Vandenherk. I sell real estate in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and I'm a property owner at 2631 Northeast 12th Street. One of my neighbors, 1207, is seeking a dock and piling variance. It's been through the Marine Advisory Board. Myself and 4 additional neighbors who may or may not be here tonight, but we presented to Commissioner Moritas at length last night by Zoom. Many of them live out of state and are not here. Oppose this variance. Seminole Lake is a very beautiful lake that's a natural lake in Fort Lauderdale. There's a lot of sea life. I regularly see manatee and other fish. The property owner is trying to get a piling variance to 48 feet from the city ordinance of 25 and a dock piling at 28 from 25 to moor a 60-foot vessel is what we're told. Myself and my husband, who own at 2631 Northeast 12th Street, in addition to our neighbor at 2625 Northeast 12th Street, have both redone our dock and pilings over a year and a half ago within the allowable limits. We currently have a 55-foot azimuth on our dock. We installed triple cluster pilings at 25 feet, and the boat is completely secure. So we are very concerned that if this is allowed to go forward, we're going to have a proliferation of pilings that are beyond 25 feet, which will invite larger and longer vessels all along the lake, which will impede marine life, significantly impede all of our views. Many of us may have bought property on the lake so that we have beautiful views, and make it more difficult for other water sports like kayaking, paddle boards, and things like that. So the argument that the homeowner is presenting is to secure his boat, while we were able to secure our boat with the configuration that we have with a 55-foot boat. So we don't see why he has a need for this variance. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to me. We did send letters to the Marine Advisory Board on this, as well as our commissioner, and hopefully this gets opposed and denied. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I'm looking at the map here.
Yes.
And the lot that we're looking at, the applicant, is at the very corner, at the very base, almost the very base of the lake as you describe it.
It's in the kind of in the elbow,
Yeah.
kind of in the elbow of it.
But
Yeah.
it's sort of at the very beginning of it. Whereabouts is your home?
We're right in the middle of the lake at 2631. And you should also note, the property owner at 1201, he was supposed to be here tonight. He attended the meeting last night. He just bought the property directly south of 1207, and he's intending on tearing the house down and building a 7,000 square foot brand-new home. We also feel that particularly his property will be impeded by trying to get a boat in at all if this mooring pile is allowed to go forward at 48 feet. I mean, he's got maybe 50 feet on the water, and I think 1207 has 60 feet on the water. So it's going to be very tight in that elbow.
Right. But just getting back to my question, so you're about three lots away from the applicant? Three lots away, are you?
Correct. 3 lots.
3 lots away.
Correct.
So tell me how, I mean, that's a significant number of feet away from your lot. How is that impeding passageways from your lot, from his lot to your lot? You're at least 150 feet away from him. So tell me how traffic, boat traffic is being impeded. Should the commission go ahead and permit this piling to be built?
So typically, the boats that come into this lake, there's a lot of large vessels all along that Seminole waterway. They come in and they turn in that basin. Some of the boats that turn in there are 80 feet. So they really need that whole basin to turn the whole boat around. So that's one. And if you've got a piling at 48 feet versus 25, it's going to make it a little tighter. And it's going to move that boat, closer to all the properties on the south side of that lake and to the west towards Bayview.
Do you own a boat?
Yes. Yes.
How long is your boat?
55.
55?
Yeah. And we installed triple clusters on our property at 25 feet, and we're completely fine to secure the boat like that.
Well, my experience has been that it's not. You need to have if you think a 55-foot boat can be properly secured with a 25-foot pier, I mean not pier, but piling.
Well, we have two on each side. We have on each side triples.
Yeah, I understand that, but all the years I've sat on this commission and all the years that I've heard for dock waivers and all the years that I've heard experts tell us that sometimes those pilings need to be longer than the boat or farther out than the boat itself in order to properly secure these boats. And if you only have a 25-foot piling for your 55-foot boat, I'm no expert, but having listened to experts over the years, you're putting yourself and your neighbors in a very unsafe situation. Should we have a hurricane or whatever, because your boat cannot be properly secured from what I've been hearing over the many years I've sat on this commission. But again, this house is at least 150 feet away from yours, and are you having difficulty turning your boat around? As you come in?
Our particular boat, no, we are not, no.
Okay.
But we don't have, a very large vessel like some of the other ones along that canal.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard? Good evening, Richard.
Hi, my name is Richard Pesey. I second everything my wife said, so start with that. I also, so just picking up where you left off I think the issue is really the riparian rights. The purchaser of the home did not purchase the amount of the lake that you're referring to. So they have a declining lot line into a triangle, which diminishes as it goes into the water. And what they're trying to do is basically buy it's the equivalent of buying a small piece of property, enough room for like a duplex, and build like an apartment building. The other issue with this lake is that if everyone does this, we're gonna have a lot less lake surface. So you have an owner who is basically trying to get much more use of the water than they've purchased, which I think is really the issue. And a lot of the diagrams and documentation supporting this, if you look at what's been presented, doesn't actually represent what's going on in the water. They cite illegally installed pilings as precedent. There is no actual variances on this lake at all. They're all 25 feet and less legally. Only the illegal ones are further than that. So we have someone trying to circumvent that whole process. So I think that he's perfectly fine to deploy a boat within the 33 feet that he has, just to get a smaller boat, or buy a larger property.
Okay,
Mayor, I have a question.
go ahead, sure.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience. So I'm reading the minutes of the Marine Advisory Board of Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. If you could help me understand why you did not appear at that meeting to.
I did. We did.
I don't see.
The owner, 1201, did not, because they were out of town. They're buying the property.
There's, in the minutes, it says, hold on a second.
Yeah, I spoke at that meeting.
It says the property's neighbor to the north, who would be the most affected by the project, has provided a letter of support in favor of the application. No other waivers have been recorded on Lake Seminole.
The
and then it
the
says-
applicant says that the north person will be most affected. In the meeting, what they said is that the person to the south and 1201 would be most affected and impinged, because with the pilings that large, they'll put a much larger boat there.
I might actually be, and I apologize because I actually forgot my iPad, but I might be missing a page here. I'm looking at these minutes. Correct me if I'm wrong again, but it says that after hearing comments from the property's neighbors and the board, the request was revised so the finger pier and mooring piles would be relocated to the north side of the property to accommodate only one vessel rather than two. The width of the finger pier was increased by 1 foot. The current application requests that the finger pier extend 28.8 feet and the mooring pile 48.8 feet from the property line. This is an overall reduction of 4.7 feet for the requested waiver. Mr. Robbins showed multiple views of the property and the configuration of its existing structures. Zoning at the property requires a 10-foot setback for vessels, which limits the amount of dock space available. She reiterated that the relocated finger pier and mooring pile can accommodate one vessel of approximately 60 feet in length. The overall waiver request for the subject property is for 3.8 feet. How many people actually spoke out against this at the Marine Advisory Board?
We had a number of letters.
We attended virtually. The second meeting was in person. We were the only ones that attended. And if you'll be patient, the neighbor 1201 is really.
Oh, okay.
Right. And to your point about the 60-foot boat, the allowable the riparian rights of this property that we're talking about is 33 feet. The variance they're asking for is 100% further into the lake than is currently allowed. 48 feet instead of 25.
Okay,
So
thank
it's-
you.
Okay.
And this was approved unanimously by the Marine Advisory Board.
Which just, as they said, comment on safety. So it's safe. It'll be safe for everybody. We'll put 48-foot pilings. We'll put, the whole lake will be full of pilings that far out. That's almost a certainty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Did,
Okay.
did you sign in, Jason? Did you want to speak? Can we show him? There's a sign-in process, right? Or can we just swear him in now, Jeff? What do you-
He can speak, and then we can get him signed in.
Okay, super. Do you want to speak? Okay. So it's not quasi? Okay. So yes, please give us your thoughts.
Well, first of all, great evening, everyone, and my apologies for my tardiness. But yeah, my wife and I, we just purchased the property about a month and a half ago, and we purchased the property knowing that we'll be able to enjoy our view, and we just want the best interest for the whole neighborhood.
Okay,
And,
wait a minute, sir. Please tell us your name.
I'm sorry, my apologies. My name is Jason Allen, homeowner of 1201 Seminole Drive, the neighbor to 1207 Seminole Drive.
This is the property to the south of the applicant?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, my apologies again.
No problem.
And so we just want the best interest for everyone in the neighborhood. If it's going to be inconvenience for anyone else, we'd rather not do it, even from our point of view. If it's going to mean that we have to not get a larger vessel as well, we're okay with that. We just wanted to be selfless and make sure that it's beneficial for the whole neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know Catherine Bongazzoni had, from the Chappelle Group, had asked to speak, but it's just for questions. Anybody have any questions?
I think it would be helpful, Mayor, if we heard from the Chappelle Group and just
Okay.
to understand it. It helped me understand it a little bit more. So I would like them to give you all the same presentation that I had, and they gave to our District 1 meeting last night as well. I'm sure she'll just take a couple minutes.
Yeah. I have a presentation if I can pull it up, if that's okay.
It's kind of similar to your backup, Mayor. She's just going to highlight a few things that's in the backup.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Catherine Bongerzone. I am from the Chappelle Group, the environmental consultants for the applicant, which is William Schaefer and Vicki Schaefer.
Okay.
So I just have some aerials that I think will help shed a little light on the situation. So you can see here we have the corner lot as we discussed.
Actually, we can't see. Okay, now we can see it better.
Is it hard to see? So can you see the red dot on the corner parcel on the lower right-hand corner? So that's the lot at 1207. And you can see there are some piles out in the water. You can see there's piles all across this lake and that there's vessels of varying sizes throughout the lake. So this is the current dock, and you can see these triangular lines that show the setbacks for vessels as well as the riparian rights. And there is an existing wood marginal dock here currently. There previously was a finger pier and a mooring pile that extended out. We don't have any record of any waiver issued previously, but there were existing structures here. And so, as you heard, this project has gone to Marine Advisory Board twice. We went in May and took the feedback from the board as well as the neighbors and reduced the scope of the project. So you can see here, this is what was previously proposed. It was for 2 vessels with a 25-foot finger pier in the middle of the property. And this waiver was requesting 53.5 feet for the mooring pile and 33 feet for the finger pier. And so I think we've gone through this already, but there were several reductions that were made. We actually are proposing to take out part of that existing wood dock so that we will be extending less distance out into the waterway. And we've reduced from 2 vessels down to 1 vessel. And we've also reduced the distance for the finger pier and the mooring pile. And it was a reduction of 4.7 feet. And so this is the current proposed layout. So as you can see, the neighbor to the north, we feel would, if there was any effect, that it would potentially be for them, and they're the ones that have signed the letter of support. And so this is just another aerial of the site, and you can see the blue vessel and the reduced structures that we now have at 48.8 feet and 28.8 feet. And we feel that this would allow for safe mooring of this vessel. Again, it's for a 60-foot vessel. This isn't for some large vessel that's going to potentially cause a navigation issue. This is just to safely moor this vessel for everyday use and if there was a tropical storm. And we feel that this is the best design for this property that would allow for that. So this is just another view of the lake with the adjacent properties and the structures that are already in the lake. And we don't feel this is going to be a hazard to navigation, as there are, as you can see, vessels that extend similar distance. And as the neighbor said, they have vessels at their site and that they put the triple pile clusters, but I believe they may also potentially have to anchor their vessels. So that an anchor could be a solution for this property, but then that could potentially be an issue for navigation. And it also causes damage to resources for seagrass and coral. I know, like it was said, this is a beautiful lake, and if you're continually having to drop an anchor every time you want to take your boat out, that can cause damage to the benthic resources that could be there. And this is just a letter of support that was signed from the neighbor to the north.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, Catherine, can you just point out real quick? You said these are the existing waivers in the vicinity. So there are about 10 other properties that currently have waivers around this lake. Can you go back to that image with the purple and the red? And can you explain to the commission the properties that are beyond 25 feet, but they're non-conforming, basically? Can you describe how many properties we have on this lake that did not go through the waiver process, but just went ahead and built the dock anyways?
Yeah, so most of it is mooring piles. And so you can see here that there's a number of them. I think it's probably 8 or 10. And most of the piles are at about 45 feet. And so there were no waivers issued for any of these other properties. And we are not looking to go after anybody else, but we're trying to do this the right way and go through the process and get a waiver for, to safely moor this vessel. And there's also, I know navigation was brought up, but there is room for a 120-foot vessel to turn within this lake basin. So the industry standard is 1.5 times the vessel size. So we would need 180 feet across, and there's plenty of room if this variance is issued, there would still be plenty of room for a vessel to navigate.
And can you just give us a quick overview about some of the boats on that lake and the larger ones? About how large are the larger ones that are currently here?
So I think the catamaran that is the largest vessel on here is 83 feet is how far out it sticks. So, we're proposing for a 60-foot vessel, so 23 feet less than that.
Okay, so when I saw this presentation, I was kind of struck by there are about 10 properties who have gone through the process and they did get a waiver. There are about equal amount of properties who did not get the waiver, but they do have larger vessels and they, larger than what this neighbor is even suggesting. Now, I don't know. I'd never met with the owner of the property requesting the waiver, but I do understand it's a long-term neighbor. It's not just someone that just bought this property and is trying to put in a bigger boat, not understanding at the very beginning what their rights were.
Right, and I'll have to verify. He's had the property, I think, in the last few years, but he's getting older. He couldn't be here tonight. They are out of town right now, but he is looking to purchase this 60-foot vessel so that he can more safely get on and off this vessel, and that's why this layout is the best for him and his family. It's for their safety to get on and off the vessel, and then obviously for the safety of keeping the vessel there as well.
Okay, so I do believe when they originally bought the house, they did buy the boat that kind of went with the size. I know that was one concern too. Now they are looking to buy something a little bit bigger. When I saw this and I hear the concerns of the neighbors, and I definitely understand it. I do appreciate that the neighbor is coming to us for the proper waiver as opposed to just going ahead and doing it and putting the boat in. So I appreciate that. Knowing that I don't want to say most, but we have a lot of properties on this same lake that do extend beyond the 25 feet. I think I feel comfortable moving this item forward, and I am sorry about maybe some of the concerns you have. I hope it will not be too much of a burden to you all and your properties. As we discussed before last night, Jason, maybe if you do want to get a bigger boat, you also have this option of coming back to us and requesting the same thing, and you may want to one day, and so you certainly have that right as well when you come back. So I also heard from my District 1 neighbors last night. Nobody else really had any concerns about this necessarily who live in District 1, not necessarily your lake, so I know you're more affected. I do also appreciate the fact they went to the Marine Advisory Board. They heard your concerns, so they did make some accommodations. They reduced the size, the scope, the amount of docks. I believe they're definitely trying to be good neighbors. It's not as much as you would like necessarily, but they did scale back. So I just think for all these reasons, I would feel comfortable, moving this item forward.
Okay,
Could I just ask a couple questions, Mayor?
right ahead.
Can I see that, see the presentation again?
There are all these images are in our backup, just to.
They are, but there's like
Yeah, great.
60 pages versus 3, so
Okay,
it's
yeah,
easier
great.
to see it.
All right, so, okay, let's go back or forward. I want to see the properties that were granted waivers, whatever that slide is.
Or not.
Correct, yep.
Well, so this one right here is just the structures within this lake, none of them have waivers. And then the next slide, this is waivers that have been issued further.
Right, they
Right.
aren't in this lake.
Right. Right, so
Right.
there have not been any issued in this lake. So all the structures that are in this lake were installed, that are more than 25 feet were installed illegally.
That's what I thought. It didn't
Yeah.
look like there are no waivers in the lake. Okay, so that's question number one. The second question is, and this is for Chris more, in terms of Chris, unapproved moorings put. What's our policy for that? How do we police that?
It's a really good question. My guess is probably through our code group, but I would have to you research each of those individually and try to figure out when they went in.
Yeah.
So
If they were not given permission by the city commission, then they're illegal.
Yeah, this is not acceptable.
It is a code violation.
It's not acceptable what's happening.
I guess the thing I'd have to do some more looking into as to whether or not the law that exists today is the same law
Right.
that would have existed at the time they went in, to see if there was anything different. So
Right.
I'm not prepared to answer that one on the fly.
Okay, well, I think I have real concern about that because it is not permissible for folks to do things that are against our ordinance. Alan, am I?
No, but to Chris's point, we need to look at each individual situation because we're presuming that they're not lawfully there, but they may be. So we have to look at each
Sure.
case.
So was there a time in the city's history where people were allowed to go willy-nilly putting pilings and finger piers in the?
I'm sure there was a time in the city
I just
when
don't think so, Mr. Bob.
Yeah, be
But well, we'd still have to. I don't want to.
okay. Well, let's look into that.
Of violating
I
it.
think it's worth just kind of evaluating, making sure we're monitoring this right. And then if you could go back to the presentation and thank you. Then there's a close up of the boat. So this is a 60-foot boat. It's sticking out how far into the waterway? Is it the piling's at 48 feet? Is that right?
The piling would be 48 feet, correct?
Piling's 48, but the boat obviously is sticking out 60 feet.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. Now, what's from your professional kind of viewpoint and understanding, what's the impact to 1201, the neighbor to the south? What's your estimation of what that impact is?
Right. So in our opinion, there isn't an impact. I mean, I think the 2 points that have probably been brought up are navigation, which would be getting their boats in and out, which, as you can see here, I don't see that as an issue. And then the other thing that I don't think is actually considered, but that I've heard brought up is views. So I've heard that maybe some of the neighbors would have their views impacted, but the neighbors at 1201 there's no vessels there currently, but the neighbors who spoke before me, they have 4 vessels. So I don't see how one vessel on our property could potentially affect other neighbors that also have vessels there.
Okay, so I mean, if I'm looking at this, if there's a 60-foot boat sticking out basically kind of northwest, right? It's going to stick out that way into the waterway. Is that right?
It's on the north side. It's kind of hard to see, but it's in the blue, just below the 2 yellow boxes. So it's on the northern part of the property.
Right, but it's sticking out. It's perpendicular. The boat will be basically perpendicular.
Exactly. It won't be marginal. It'll be perpendicular.
It'll be perpendicular. Okay. So in my sense of that, if I'm at 1201 and I'm looking, I think it's northbound or basically northeast, I'm going to be looking at the boat, right? I mean, it's going to impact my view.
I don't believe so, because if you look,
There's a better picture. This is too difficult. You have another
Yeah,
close.
sure. Go to
You have a close-up of this area. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah, or that
Go back.
previous.
I think there was
Go back,
one
go
better
back.
one.
That was good.
Go back. Go
I think
back.
there was one better one. Hold
Go
on.
back.
Okay.
There you go.
This one I think is the good one. Or do you want me to go back to the other
Yeah, go
one?
back to the other one. I like the other one just because it helps me see. Yeah, keep going back.
No, that's
That's a good one.
better,
Okay.
yeah.
So if I'm just on the
So the position of the boat is not accurate,
right,
correct?
it's going to be
Correct. That's what it
It's
looks
going to be
like now.
flipped.
Yeah.
So this is overlaid on an aerial of the boat that
Right.
was at the site at the time of this.
Okay.
I think was 2019 or
Okay.
2020.
I mean, that's going to impact at least my view. If I'm standing in the yard of 1201 and I'm looking northbound, there's a longer distance. I'm looking at a boat that's 60 feet, right? Sticking out into the water.
Well, again, the boat is not positioned the way it's going to be positioned.
I'm imagining the boat being positioned
differently.
westbound into the waterway.
Can you see the dashed triangle
Yeah,
and the blue
the
boat?
blue overlay, that's what the boat
Right,
will look like.
exactly,
You're
exactly.
correct.
So if you see the straight line that comes off of the property corner that heads straight out, I mean, that would essentially be the view corridor, which I don't think that's even under consideration anyways, but I don't think it would be impacted because the vessel is going to be all the way to the right, which is outside of that dash line.
Okay. I don't know how to describe it differently, but if I'm in the pool, okay, in my view, it doesn't.
I guess if you were on the southwest corner of the property looking out, then yes, you would see the boat.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, there being none. Let's see where we are here. Okay.
Did you want say something? I don't know, Mayor.
No,
Here.
public hearing, no, you've had, so, everyone who's signed up to speak has spoken. Okay, so do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes,
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Mayor Trentals.
Yes, so public hearing is now closed. Vice Mayor, how do you want to do this?
I move the item.
I'm sorry?
I move the item.
Okay, the resolution's been introduced
And this is to grant the waiver.
to grant the waiver.
Correct.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida pursuant to Section 47-19.3E of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, granting a waiver of limitations of ULDR Section 47-19.3C and D to permit William H. Schaefer Jr. and Vicky L. Schaefer, husband and wife, installation of a 25-foot long by 5-foot wide wood finger pier plus or minus 125 square feet, extending plus or minus 28.8 feet, and one wood 12 mooring pile extending a maximum of plus minus 48.8 feet from the property line into Seminole Lake, such property being located at 1207 Seminole Drive, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and more particularly described below, subject to certain terms and conditions, repealing any and all parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen,
No.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes,
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Mayor Trentals.
Yes. And the resolution is approved. Public hearing 3, resolution granting a waiver of limitations at 1801 Southeast 21st Avenue for the installation of a finger pier. The only person who signed up is, again, Catherine. Does anyone have any questions of Catherine on this item? No one else has signed up to speak. Anyone have any questions of the city manager or staff? Someone like to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
yes,
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Mayor Trentals.
Yes. Public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution to approve? To approve?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida pursuant to Section 47-19.3E of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, granting a waiver of the limitations of ULDR Section 47-19.3C to permit Craig Michael Heslin and Deborah Heslin, husband and wife, installation of one finger pier extending a maximum of plus minus 65 feet from the property line into the waters of the intracoastal waterway, such property being located at 1801 Southeast 21st Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and more particularly described below, subject to certain terms and conditions, repealing any and all parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
yes,
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, Mayor Trentals.
Yes. And the resolution is approved. PH4, this is a public hearing resolution granting a waiver of limitations at 9 Hendricks Avenue, actually 9 Hendricks Isle, for the installation of a 24,000-pound four-post boat lift. I have one per. It's your big night, Catherine. Get them all in before vacation. So we have, just Catherine is here for questions. Anyone have any questions regarding this item? Someone like to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion to close?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trent House?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the
Introduced.
resolution? It's been introduced.
And this is granting
This is granting.
a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, pursuant to Section 47-19.3E of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, granting a waiver of limitations of ULDR Section 47-19.3C to permit Alan C. Sinsich and Michelle Sinsich as trustees of the Alan and Michelle Sinsich Trust, dated April 25th, 2016, installation of a 24,000-pound four-post boat lift extending a maximum of plus minus 43.4 feet from the property line into the Lago Cairn waterway, such property being located at 9 Hendricks Isle, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and more particularly described below, subject to certain terms and conditions, repealing any and all parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trent House?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. Public hearing 5. This is a resolution granting a waiver of limitations at 141 Isle of Venice for the installation of 22 wood mooring pilings. 22.
22. That's a lot of piles.
Other than Catherine, no one signed up to speak. Anyone else wishing to ask questions regarding this? If none, someone please move to close public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trent House?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Been introduced.
And that's
To-
approving.
and To approve.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida pursuant to Section 47-19.3E of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, granting a waiver of limitations of ULDR Section 47-19.3D to permit Casa Morano LLC, a Florida limited liability company, for installation of 22 wood mooring piles extending a maximum of plus minus 35 feet from the property line into the Rio Grande waterway, such property being located at 141 Isle of Venice, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33301, and more particularly described below, subject to certain terms and conditions, repealing any and all parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trent House?
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. PH 6, it's a public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance, approving a rezoning from residential single-family and duplex medium-density district, RD15, to community business district. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Through the allocation of 0.62 acres of commercial flexibility with and a site plan for a mixed-use development consisting of 60 multifamily residential units through the allocation of 60 residential flexibility units and surface parking at 1123 Northeast 4th Avenue, Florida, LLC. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. I have a few people signed up to speak. Let's see, for questions only, for questions only. Questions only. Okay, it's not very controversial, so this is in District 2. Mr. Commissioner, do you have any comments you want to add to this discussion?
Not necessarily that I want to add, but I wanted to make sure that all of the conditions from the planning and zoning minutes, including the.
Oh, wait. Before you say anything, disclosures.
Yes, 9/29/20, Robert Lockery, 6/29/21, Nectaria Chakis.
Disclosures?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Nectaria Chakis on June 23rd, and Robert Lockery on Robert Lockery was February 20th, 2020. Nectaria was June 23rd, 2021.
Commissioner McKenzie? And Commissioner Sorensen.
Yeah, met with applicants.
And I should also say, I apologize, I also met with, I have the gentleman's name here. I apologize. I think it was Javier Concha, and I don't have the date. He's immediate next door neighbor, and I did a site visit as well.
Okay. I met with the applicant and their representatives on multiple occasions. Can I just ask the applicant come up here for a second? Good evening. For being here tonight.
Good evening, Nectaria Chakis with the firm Lockery and Chakis on
Hello,
behalf of the
Nectaria.
applicant.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
So tell me exactly what you plan to put on the first floor again. 'Cause this is a commercial street, right? This is 4th Avenue. There's a lot of commercial businesses, and you're putting housing on there. But I also noticed on the first floor, you plan to have, I think, 2,400 or 2,500 square feet of commercial. What do you contemplate putting there to add to the retail mix of the street?
So it would be more of a neighborhood style retail, and I'll bring up the floor plan just so you can see. Whoops, so the bay that you're talking about is the 2,250 square foot bay that's located on the corner of 11th and 4th.
So it's just that corner. Okay.
So it's just the corner, that's correct. There are other uses on the bottom floor that are related to the residential use, the multifamily residential use, like the main common area, the recreational areas, lobby area. But the actual retail area is really delegated over here to the corner.
So that's going to be juxtaposed to the backside of is that the parking lot? That it's going to be next to the parking lot where Sherwin-Williams is?
So there's a Cumberland Farms that's located
There's a Cumberland
immediately
Farms
south. Okay. And then you have our building, which has the surface parking over here. This is all open area surface parking. That's the property that we're proposing to rezone. And then you have the building is solely located on this portion, which is what you see on
Right,
on
but
the
before you get to Cumberland Farms, isn't there Sherwin-Williams? It's a brand-new building.
in between, sorry.
Yeah. And is there a parking lot between you and Sherwin-Williams, or do you go right up against, is your building on the parking lot?
We're located right on the street. We're on 11th Street. So we have 11th Street right here to the south. So if Sherwin-Williams is located to the south of us, there's a
Right.
street separating us.
Okay, so, all right. Yeah, so I think Sherwin-Williams has a parking lot there. Yeah. So it'd be across the street from the parking lot. I just want to know how close to the Sherwin-Williams building you're going to be. So it'll be across the street from the parking lot. Right. So that corner is going to be a single store. Do you know what you're going to put in there yet? You have any thoughts?
You don't have any.
You don't have any tenants?
They don't have any tenants.
Okay. And, okay, so are you going to like heavily landscape the area between you and the building and the street? Because, I mean,
Yes.
you're right on the street here.
Yes. So what we've done, and this is in conjunction with the neighborhood and with city staff, all of the landscaping and all of the streetscape along, you have 3rd Avenue here to our west, 11th and on 4th. All of that streetscape is going to be redone. All the sidewalks are a minimum of 7 feet. So we have landscaping, some parallel parking that we've added along 3rd, because what's happening now, and that's the western street here. What's happening now is you have people parking in the swale. and it looks a little messy, and they're just parking on the grass. So what we thought would be a good idea is to just go ahead and add some parallel parking spaces there that'll be landscaped and asphalt, so that they're not parking on dirt and grass. We've also added decorative lighting. That was a request from the neighborhood, the South Middle River Terrace neighborhood, when we met with them. And it's decorative, low-scale lighting, pedestrian scale lighting, and they're called bollard lighting, which is the picture that is up here on the screen right now. That'll be installed along 3rd Avenue, along the sidewalks, and along 11th Street.
So on 4th Avenue, there's no residential on the first floor, it appears. It's all either retail or some kind of building function. I don't see any residents on the first floor.
That's correct.
Okay.
All of the residential is on the 2nd through
And
floors
above.
2 through 5. That's correct.
Okay. Because it's a very busy street. And, I think we made a mistake in allowing Elan 1640 to be built the way we did, because it's smack up against the street and there's no buffer between the building and the street. And it's just, we don't want to make that mistake twice. So, okay. All right, thank you. Do you have anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
Ma'am, I just wanted to make sure, Nectaria, all of the conditions, including that deed restriction mentioned in the planning and zoning minutes, are all included as conditions on this?
That's correct. There'll be a declaration of restrictions that's recorded prior to final DRC sign-off, and we will be restricting all of the property that's being rezoned today to CB. We're restricting it to a surface parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, I have a question on these types of restrictions or deed restrictions. How can those be undone?
By city
Good
commission.
question. Lynn?
City commission vote would undo.
That's what I figured they had to be. I just wanted to just understand.
Yeah, typically, I mean, you could undo them, but I'd need more specificity as to what kind of restrictions are you talking about?
It's talking about deed restrictions, surface parking,
Yeah, I mean, they could always be modified, but it would take commission action.
Commission action can vote to undo.
Mhm.
Is that right, Alan?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. I just want to understand that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6, point B of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A, revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof, so as to rezone from residential single-family duplex medium-density zoning district to community business zoning district through the allocation of commercial flexibility, all of lots 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32, Block 143, Progresso, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 18 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, located west of the Northeast 4th Avenue, north of Northeast 11th Street, east of Northeast 3rd Avenue, and south of Northeast 12th Street, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the ordinance is now approved. Congratulations, good luck. So now we have OFR 1. This is the first reading of an ordinance amending Division 3 regarding providing simplified administration of water and wastewater credits for leaks and unexplained usage. Anyone have any questions regarding this ordinance? If not, would someone like to introduce it? It's been introduced.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Chapter 28, Water and Wastewater and Stormwater, Sections 28-76, 28-143, and 28-144, and deleting Sections 28-173 and 28-174 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, providing for a simplified administration of water and wastewater credits for leaks and unexplained usage, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. And let's hope this can help the vice mayor relieve some of the headaches she's gotten over the years.
Yes, that would be wonderful. And then, Chris, the AMI, that's coming, yes. AMI is coming back later?
It'll come back, but they won't come back until after October the 1st because it would require the budget to be adopted in the format that it's in. So, yeah,
And
yes.
then when it comes back in October, it's only a pilot program, and then it comes back again?
No, we're moving forward with the 5 different pilots right now. I believe the number was 5 different vendors, moving forward with that. But as far as implementation of a larger scale program, we need to put funding in place to be able to do that.
Okay, so we're doing the pilot program now for the AMI, the meters, the automated meters. And then in October, it would come back to us to vote to move it forward for our whole city, and we would analyze.
It would be a multiple year program.
Okay.
To do the entire city, yes. It's more than 2 years. I think it might even be.
Sure, but in October, we would have the research from the pilot program to determine who we want to use to move forward?
Let me just say fall. I don't know. if
Okay,
it'll
so
be
in the
after
fall.
October, but this fall.
So right now, the pilot program is proceeding, and we have a few companies we're looking at, correct?
That's correct.
And then when it comes back to us in the fall, we will vote on the best company and if we want to move the project forward for the whole city.
Correct, and we will have that official discussion too as to how it's funded, because right now it's recommended as an expense out of the stormwater, out of the water fund. So it is ratepayer funded, and so I know there was some question as to whether or not that was if that was the mechanism to do that. So it's got a couple of different things. We have to operationally figure out what's the right program, and then we have to figure out what the funding source. And
Okay.
right now it's proposed as part of the water rate.
So did any of our unsolicited proposals for 5-ash include water mains and/or this?
Can't answer that.
We can't answer that because it's confidential. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. Good. I'm glad I didn't read it and I don't understand it then, because then okay. So, all right. Well, that would be nice if they did, just for the record. All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right. OFR 2, first reading, an ordinance amending the City of Fort Lauderdale Code of Ordinance, allowing parklets in the Regional Activity Center and various other uses. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Anyone have any disclosures regarding this? This is a staff-driven ordinance, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so unless you talked with staff, do you have any disclosures, anybody?
There's no disclosures necessary for them.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, well, it says to disclose, so
It does.
just following your instructions, Mr. Paulo.
Yes.
All right, so no one signed up to speak. Someone like to close public hearing?
Moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear second? It's been seconded.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas? Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
The ordinance has been introduced.
An ordinance of the City Commission and City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Article 7-A entitled Parklets, Section 25A-185 entitled Permit Application and Site Approval of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to amend regulations pertaining to locations eligible for the siting of parklets, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Before I vote, I would like to say that maybe one day we can get some parklets in District 1 as well, because that's not included here for some reason. It's just parklets everywhere, except it says no District 1.
Office parks, what else?
So here's to her future.
What else do you want to take
Here's
from
to
me?
her future parklets.
What else
And
do you want to take from
What?
they have parklets?
I
You have parklets?
amazing parks?
Well, she's not going to have any according to
No,
this.
I don't really have a lot of parks either.
Oh, okay. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote yes with the hope that District 1 will have future parklets.
Maybe,
Thank you.
Keep going, please.
Commissioner McKenzie?
no, he's looking at this.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and parklets you shall have. Unfortunately, District 1,
Maybe the next district
maybe next time.
can get parklets.
Okay.
Yes. They'll have a
All
nice
right.
office too. Maybe you'll be in
Remember the other
District
guy?
3 next time, Steve, with redistricting. Maybe you can work things out.
Ooh, she said it.
Well, I don't know how that's
When are we going to start? When are we going to see the population figures?
This fall.
This fall.
Fall.
Maybe we'll have 5 commissioners and
Longer
1
to-
mayor.
Longer to assemble the numbers than to count them.
The numbers are dwindling.
So, OSR 1, second reading, ordinance amending section 21-161 of the rates and hours of on and off-street parking. Anyone have any questions regarding this? No one has signed up to speak. There being none, please call the roll.
Someone introduce it?
Introduced.
Oh. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Got you covered.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
he has it.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Section 26-161 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, entitled Rates and Hours for and on off-street parking, to provide a definition of special events parking and to establish a parking rate structure for special events parking and providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, and an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the ordinance as introduced is now law. So, do you have a script for me for the budget items?
We do not. The scripts happen in September, so we would just take these items just as
Just do it.
normal agenda items, and I can give a summary of what they are if the commission desires, or I can just let the commission agenda memo stand on their own.
Okay, because I remember, I thought we'd gotten a script.
Improvisation, Mayor. Improvisation.
Do I have
got
to
this.
ad-lib this?
Improvisation.
You'll
Get
have
it
that
101.
script in
Take it away.
September.
I feel naked without a script.
Yes.
Put your clothes on.
Cue cards. Does he have a cue cards?
Budget 1, resolution setting the fiscal year 2022 proposed millage rate and debt service rate for the city of Fort Lauderdale, setting the millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District, and acknowledging the receipt of the city manager's budget message and proposed budget. Is this an introduction of a resolution? Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
It's been introduced. Any questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, acknowledging receipt of the city manager's budget message, estimates, and recommendations, together with a proposed budget for fiscal year 2022, setting the proposed millage rate and debt service rate for the City of Fort Lauderdale, setting the millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District, and authorizing the city manager to compute the rolled back rate and execute all appropriate instruments in order to advise the Broward County property appraiser of the proposed millage rates and rolled back rate. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So we have now established the millage rate at 4.1193 for fiscal year 2022. We cannot go over that, but we can go under that, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
I would anticipate a recommendation of 4.1193 though, so
Okay.
How many years is that? 15 now?
it is.
15?
15 years?
Yes. Right.
Budget 2, motion setting the public hearing dates to consider the proposed fiscal year 2022 millage rate and budget for the city of Fort Lauderdale and Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District. Anyone have any questions? If not, would someone like to make the motion?
Introduced.
It's actually a motion.
Yeah.
So you make them, you move
Moved.
Second.
the item and there's a second. Okay.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the motion's approved.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Would like you to mention in the motion the actual date and time of the hearings, please. That would be Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, Monday, September 13th, 2021.
Is that part of the motion or just as reference?
It should
'Cause
be a part of the motion.
It doesn't indicate it, that's why.
You don't have your script.
Yep. Here, we'll write some notes.
It's
We
not,
can,
it's
on
not
on
in
the ones that are
motion.
public hearings, we can help with those dates. It's in the recommendation on the CAM. So if that motion would be to approve with those two dates that Mr. Spence referenced, that would be great. September 8, 2021 and September 13, 2021.
Okay,
At 5:01 p.m.
PM, that's correct.
okay,
Or soon thereafter.
thank you.
Definitely.
Are there any other, as we go ahead?
We could add some more to it if you want us to.
If you can remember it all.
No, I think that's sufficient. Is that
Wrote it down.
that satisfactory to be the motion?
Yes, friendly. Agreed.
Budget 3, motion setting the proposed fiscal year 2022 non-ad valorem assessment rate and public hearing date for the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District tentative budget. No one signed up to speak. Someone like to move the item?
Moved.
Moved and
And
seconded.
Commissioner, you'll be moving it with that date being September 13th, 2021 at 5:01 PM.
Or soon thereafter.
Or soon thereafter, yeah, to give us some flexibility.
We only have one date now?
Please call the roll. It's been moved and seconded.
It has, okay.
I think Commissioner Sorensen moved.
Yeah, I moved it.
I believe Commissioner
Yep.
McKenzie seconded.
Sorry, I missed that. I was
Okay.
too interested in saying
I'm
it.
here.
Or soon thereafter. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the motion's approved. Budget 4, motion establishing a public hearing date for the proposed fiscal year 2022 non-ad valorem assessment nuisance abatement. Someone like to move the item? Hello?
Moved.
And this
Second.
one will be Mayor September 13th, 2021 at 5:01 PM or as soon thereafter.
Okay. Part of the motion. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. Did you say no?
I say no every year. These are assessments. I don't.
But nuisance
Assessment is the problem I have. Assessment.
Okay.
Or if it was a resolution.
Then I would do something different.
Okay. Budget 5, preliminary rate resolution for the fire assessment establishing the estimated fiscal year 2022 non-ad valorem fire assessment fee and authorizing a public hearing on September 13th, 2021,
Now they write it in.
At 5:01 PM
or thereafter.
or as soon thereafter.
It's time for commission
Someone
break.
please introduce the resolution.
Introduced.
It's been introduced.
A resolution, the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of fire services, facilities, and programs in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, establishing the estimated assessment rate for fire assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the fire assessment establishing the non-ad valorem fire assessment fee has been approved. Budget 6, preliminary rate resolution for the beach business improvement assessment establishing the estimated fiscal 2022 non-ad valorem assessment rate and authorizing a public hearing on September 13th, 2021 at 5 p.m. or as soon there.
5:01 PM.
5:01 p.m. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
This is for the hotels on the beach, right? The businesses on the beach.
It's for the bid, yes.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of beach business improvement services in certain portions of the beach area located within the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. More specifically described herein, establishing the estimated assessment rate for the beach business improvement assessment for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for rescission of conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Mayor Trentals.
Yes. Budget 7, preliminary rate resolution for the fiscal year 2022 non-ad valorem assessment for utility undergrounding and authorizing a public hearing on September 13th, 2021 at 5:01 p.m. or soon thereafter. This is for a very isolated group, correct?
No, did the language change this year? Because normally it says it'd be like Las Solas something.
It's just for the La Sola.
And then the other one is for the bid, right? The one before this. Am I correct? Those are the two that I normally would vote for, but it's different terminology this year. It's not reading the same way.
Well, this is just for the Las Solas Isles neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And I'm changing my vote on the other one to yes, because they want to be assessed, so I'm okay with that.
The bid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, but you voted against it.
No, but I'm going back to change the record. I can do that. But it's written differently, so it didn't seem like the same people.
So you're changing your vote
On the previous,
on
Budget
digit
six.
6, budget 6.
then I'm gonna go yes on this one because it's the self-assessment.
And budget 7 is for the Las Solas Isles
Right.
Association.
Correct.
I'm okay with that.
Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced with the hope that one day we will see the underground in the Las Olas Isles.
We share that.
We don't have it
same
yet?
hope.
Huh?
We don't have it yet?
No. It's
kidding.
actually taking a little bit longer than the park in Lockhart Park.
The other
Quiet.
commissioner was better. The one before you.
Go
Okay.
ahead. Please call. It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
He had all the equipment there, so.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of the underground utility line facilities in the Las Olas Isles neighborhood, imposing underground utility line assessments against assessed property located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof and providing an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Trentals.
Yes. And budget 7 is approved. Lastly, budget 8, preliminary annual assessment resolution for the stormwater assessment, initiating the process for imposing the fiscal year 2022 non-ad valorem assessment for authorizing a public hearing on September 13th, 2021 at 5:01 p.m. or soon thereafter. This is for this is to fund the stormwater mitigation project we have going.
This is the stormwater, yes, this would set the stormwater rate and the associated projects would move forward that have been discussed with the commission.
Okay. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution, the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, initiating the process for reimposition of the stormwater management services assessment in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for rescission of conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Mayor Trentals.
But I have a question for
Yes.
city manager. I was at Melrose Manors HOA meeting last week, and there were a couple people that wanted the answer to the question. I know we just changed where we put this stormwater fee, where it goes on the tax bill now, which got a lot of people upset last year. Since they did not have any storm drains in the neighborhood, they wanted an answer as to they've been paying these fees for so many years. They want to, why is that? So I didn't want to explain it. I told them I would have someone come out to their meeting.
Sure.
And explain to them why. Because no matter what I would have said, it would not have been the right answer, but they don't have a stormwater system. They're going to get one in the next 5 years, but they were questioning me about why were they being charged and they didn't have a system in place.
Be happy to have that discussion with them.
Okay. That's Jerry Covington, and we'll send you all the information.
Perfect.
All right?
Okay. So that concludes the business of the evening agenda. Any further?
I have some other items, Mayor. We did.
Regarding this, or do you want to pick up the commission reports?
Yeah, I have some. Exactly. I've got to cover.
Away
some.
from mine.
So the evening meeting is now concluded, and we'll go back to the conference meeting, and we can pick up on commissioner reports. So, Vice Mayor, do you have any reports you'd like to?
Yeah, I'll keep it
Discuss.
short. I did want to shout out to Mark and his team for the topping off ceremony. I thought that was lovely. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And Phil and his team for the Beach Boys and the fireworks. So thank you. I do want to tell you one update that we're considering, actually two in District 1 that you've been asking about, Mayor. So I'm listening to you and we're exploring it. So we're looking at possibly building a pickleball tournament facility in District 1 because we don't have any parklets. So,
Best thing.
I had a strategy, Steve. I said, forget the parklets. I'm going straight for the tournament facility. So, so thanks to Phil and his genius ways, we are looking at the pickleball tournament facility. I talked to the Galt businesses and the Galt residents. We're thinking of building it next to the Beach Community Center on top of the current parking space. It'll be a structure with 16 pickleball courts on top.
Right, isn't that great?
So I did have a
Where?
picture during my conference report that I will show you because,
Surface parking lot they're going to build.
so look at this. Here we go, Steve. Because I have showed this, I've shown this image to neighbors and businesses. So I just did it like in the past week or two. So you all, it just came to me. So I know you've been asking about there we go. Look at that. Everybody loves it. So here's the Beach Community Center, and right next to it, the parking will remain the same. Right above the parking structure, once again, here's the 16 courts, and 16 courts equal a tournament, right, Phil? It's about the amount we need. Okay, so it can be used for a tournament, but obviously it can be used for neighbors too. So I believe this answers the call of our pickleball
Awesome.
community that keep reaching out to us. So if you hear of anything, I don't know how it's going to come back to us or what we do next. We're going to do a little bit more community outreach, I believe, and come back to the commission probably soon. I'm thinking maybe August, September, Phil. I'm not sure, Chris. Okay, so that's one development that's coming.
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
those buildings on the intercoastal just west of it are all aware of the.
We have not talked to those. There are two buildings.
Okay.
Maybe three. We started with the board of the Galt, which like you're saying, they're across the street actually. And then we started with the board of the Galt shops and restaurants. So those are the two groups we met with initially to see if they liked the idea. And then Phil did follow up and say he was going to meet with all the businesses adjacent to the property to make sure. And we also are talking about a possible sound barrier wall or some kind of structure in between those condos on the intercoastal and the pickleball tournament. This will not be an 18-hour city event, so rest assured that we will not have pickleballs being hit at 2 a.m. So this will shut down, and so hopefully the noise, we can accommodate that. So I feel pretty confident about it, but yes, Phil is in the process of reaching out to those neighbors without me, but those are the two groups that we met with to at least get their approval, and then we're also bringing it up to you all to see how you feel. I hope you like it because a lot of people are asking us about it, and it does fit the age bracket. Pickleball is normally played by older people. I know younger people enjoy it too, but so that kind of fits the flavor of the Galt. Another thing we're looking into.
And Heather, Vice Mayor, is that park bond funding?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is currently money in the budget to enhance the Beach Community Center, and this
Right.
line item would be used for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it is park
Great.
bond money. And then the other thing we're looking at for park bond money in District 1, because Mayor, you've asked me a few times now about a skate park. So I have met with Colliers and Phil and some other neighbors about possibly buying commercial property along a corridor like Federal Highway, Commercial Boulevard, Oakland Boulevard, maybe trying to find a piece of commercial property and turn that into a skate park. So I do have park bond money, obviously, for District 1, and a lot of neighborhoods. We've gone to every neighborhood. Sometimes you get mixed messages. Some people really don't want to park in their neighborhood. So we still have money for District 1, and a lot of neighborhoods are not really moving forward with that idea of a pocket park. So we're looking at a skate park in the area where the moms who came to us and have asked are requesting it. So a little further east, kind of in that corridor. So those are two improvements we're working on. I just wanted you all to be updated so you know. And Steve, I know you talked about the McNabb Bridge last time, and forgive me if we didn't talk about it enough so that you had a level of comfort with approving the budget amendment. But in addition, because I know John and Herbst and I have talked about the budget request, and to me, and I believe to everybody, it's more than, it's not about necessarily improving property values in Imperial Point. To me, it's about safety and resiliency. I don't know how anybody would ever rebuild a bridge and not make it taller when all we talk about is sea level rise. So that was kind of misplaced, honestly, for anyone to consider replacing a bridge and not raising it. The other thing is, my daughters, they knew the kids who were involved in, there was a horrible accident a couple years ago where the water and the bridge and the boat were too close and children died, and one of them's paralyzed now. So we really just need to make sure there's enough space between our bridges and our waterways. So to me, when we're moving that 500,000 forward, hopefully it works out. John, are you working that out? Are you working through something? It's not just about property values, but I know that.
At this point, that's more of a legal question than it is an audit question.
That's right. Alan wasn't. Okay. So Alan, we'll circle back with you. We had that conversation. I'm sorry you were not there when we discussed that. We'll circle back with you. Okay. That's it for District 1.
Yeah, I think going back to that and what would make me feel comfortable is having an answer with us using money outside of our city. How does that work? Who answers that question?
That was the legal question that we need to give Alan some time to probably think about.
Well, he shouldn't. If we're putting the money there now, we should know about it.
Yep.
Well, it has to be backed by public purpose. Correct. So, and the auditor and I have had discussions on that with regards to, and I think that's where we're doing some more work with getting the proper backup for that public purpose to be able to do that. If it benefits your citizens, you can enter into an ILA or grant agreement with a surrounding jurisdiction if it's going to impact properties or have that public purpose for your constituency. So it's not unlawful to do that, but there has to be proper support from the public purpose standpoint.
And I think to echo on that is the challenge that we had was the public purpose as it was outlined in the item reflected the fact that the property values were going to increase along the waterways in an amount sufficient to offset what we were spending on this. When I looked more closely at the report, it didn't support that conclusion. The vice mayor raises, which I think is probably the more pertinent issue, is it's one of the fact that our residents use those waterways and it's a public safety issue. And that when I said it's no longer now a financial business case, it's really more of a legal theory than it is a financial case. And that's why I punted it on back to Alan for his staff to review.
But I'm not aware of the legal question, so I'll have to
Sure.
refer on that.
So that's it. Instead of analyzing the request from a financial basis, we're analyzing it for public safety and or resiliency, because people in Imperial Point, I mean, you have to time the tides in order to get out of your house to get under the bridge and through it. So if we have the opportunity, I don't know if that's the case, but also with resiliency, obviously sea level rise. I mean, it's compacting the space that's there. And I'm surprised, honestly, Pompano just didn't raise it to begin with. I don't think do we replace bridges and not raise them? I hope we don't.
We raise the Las Olas bridges.
Yeah, so when we replace bridges, I hope we also raise them, because we talk about resilience.
Sunrise Boulevard
So,
across the
that
Middle
was
River
raised.
was raised 5 feet.
Sure. So
I think most of the bridges that we have in our city that we rebuilt were
Raised,
raised.
yeah.
Even the one at Broward.
Right.
But the only reason why I'm questioning this is because we're going outside of our city, and these are public dollars. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing when I support it. And it seems like initially we did it with one intent, and now we're going back to find a different answer to justify what we didn't put through the first time.
Well, I
If
think
we find
always-
that answer, I'm okay with it, but
I think we always knew we were trying to accommodate homeowners that were upstream that lived in our city. We just, for some reason, the way the river meanders through Pompano and the bridges there, I think from day one, we always knew that this
Yeah.
was.
Sure. Well, that's my fault for not reviewing the backup more closely and kind of analyzing what it was asking, because I wouldn't have led with that point. I wouldn't have said it's going to increase the property values, 'cause that's not my main concern. My main concern is for people to get out and for this.
Yeah, it's not about property values. It's about being able to use the waterways.
Yeah. With
So,
with
and where it
CWR.
got a little confusing was the city of Pompano is taking a different perspective on their rationale. So
Yeah, maybe
when
they
you read
gave
their
it to us.
when you read their
And when it
consulting
raises the
report,
property values, you get more tax money.
yeah, so to Pompano, it has a different value than it has to us. And so that's why we need to study the value that is important to us, which is a safety value as opposed to a financial value.
Okay, and that's a good point. We didn't prepare the report, right?
Correct.
So maybe that's why I didn't read it as closely. 'Cause it
That's
wasn't
correct.
generated.
The report, the consultant's report was prepared by Pompano for their benefit, and it was just included with our item as one of the ways that you might support it. But it didn't, again, from my perspective, didn't meet the public purpose, and that's why we need to look if there are other issues that would qualify it.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up so we can, clearly define it. So there are two items real quick, calendar, sorry, and we'll just be quick. Just the USS Fort Lauderdale, I know they've gone back and forth a few times. Does everybody on this commission want to attend the christening ceremony?
Attend what? I didn't hear that.
The christening ceremony for the USS Fort
Well,
Lauderdale.
has it been?
Yeah, we don't have a date yet.
We don't have a date
I know
yet.
we don't have a date, but I'm just wondering if everybody
I would like to go.
You would like to
I think
go,
it's
Ben would like to
appropriate,
go.
actually. I think I should go.
No, I think you should be there, obviously. I'm just wondering
We don't have a date yet.
when we're
depends on the
looking,
date with me.
so when we're looking at schedules and times, if, I just don't know what we're looking at necessarily, and maybe we don't have a choice at all. Maybe the Navy just comes back and says, this is it. But I guess knowing that three of us, maybe Commissioner McKenzie, maybe Commissioner Glassman, I think whoever wants to go, if there is an option, maybe we could try to at least think up a date that worked with everybody, if there was an option.
Yeah,
Well-
but when we have to go the date of the christening?
Yeah, we
Isn't
need
that the
to know-
purpose?
Yeah, and we don't have the date yet.
Right, so when the date comes up, we've tried to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
And
They
we're
tell us,
hearing,
we don't tell them.
Right, we're hearing that the Navy's pretty much going to tell us the date.
Right.
And then we're just going to either have to,
Okay, so for
Summer?
your backup, we had a date and it didn't work for everyone, so we said it didn't work. So I'm just saying, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Next summer?
Well, they kept
No,
switching
next-
it around. They kept moving it around, so.
Yeah, so
could be within the next month.
Oh, in the next month.
that's
It'll be in
government
July?
too, so when
Oh,
No,
you mean August?
Yeah, because August is what was proposed before. So.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy tickets for a date based on the government. We'll change in a minute.
So if they do get back to us, maybe just let
Mississippi,
everybody.
MISSISS, yeah, remember that one? Yeah, we're going there.
And then the
Anything else,
last,
Vice Mayor?
yeah, this is it. Sorry.
She has
The
one more.
Last date, if you all want to attend the Washington Summit with the Chamber in October, we would need to change our commission date to Thursday of that week. So I don't know if you all want to do that.
Yeah, well, when is the first day is a Tuesday.
Monday.
It's a Monday?
Night,
Is
What-
Monday,
what-
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Monday,
What-
Tuesday,
What
Wednesday.
month?
October.
Oh,
So I think it's a good idea that we
Okay.
switch it to Thursday.
Are you all okay with that?
are we all going to Washington?
Well, I would like to go. It's really good for us.
At least three of us behind. We can get a lot of things done, Steve. What
Yeah.
do you think?
Maybe we should stay.
Huh?
The vice
Vice
mayor,
Mayor and the mayor gone. We can.
you could change the whole city.
Yeah. Will they?
Yeah. Who's next in
Give me
charge?
Vice Mayor, give me the dates again. It's
It was
It's
you last time.
October
I was-
18th, 19th, and 20th, I believe.
for some reason I have our meeting already on Thursday, the
Huh?
21st.
You do have our meeting? Oh, maybe it got changed.
Did we maybe do that
no,
already?
we
What date
didn't.
is it?
October. So
We talked about it, but we didn't do it because we
didn't
were
officially
waiting
do it?
on
Okay.
what was going to be announced as the agenda in Washington.
okay.
Now that the agenda's out, it looks appropriate that we could move from the 19th to the
the
21st.
21st. Okay.
If you all want to do that, I'll do that over the summer and bring a resolution back in August, changing the meeting date.
So are we all trying to go to Washington too? Or
Yeah.
what?
I think it's
You?
We're one big happy
Good
family.
event.
Yeah.
Steve?
We got to all go together.
If you're
Come
all
on.
going, I'm not going to miss the party.
Come on. It's
All
going
right,
to
if
be a
you
good
all
time.
go, I'll go.
All right, let's do it. Awesome.
Good
So
stuff. It's a good,
possibly
it's a good,
moving it to
good
the
summit.
21st.
You're going to stay the whole time this time?
I
You
always say
left
the
me in the lobby last time. And you took off.
Oh, yes. I go to bed early. I don't stay up late. All right.
We good?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Glassman.
I just want to make sure. So we are going to move the meeting to October 21.
We are. Unless you want to stay behind and have our own deal now. It's up to you.
It takes more than one for a quorum.
It'll be three of us.
I'm good.
Ben, stay with us.
Ben's coming.
We'll be on a
Come on,
cruise.
go. Come on, let's go.
Okay, moving right along. I'm not even going to tell you. I just want to say thank you to all of the neighborhoods that met. I won't go through this whole list because we're trying to get through, but lots of neighborhood association meetings and other boards. I will also want to echo the vice mayor's thank you to staff for both the Swimming Hall of Fame diving platform dedication and also July 4th festivities. Terrific job all around. I will, just so you know, be working all through the summer recess with about 6 solid waste working group meetings that have been scheduled.
Oh, come on.
No, I swear. So I will be doing those, and I will wrap all those up in one big report for you. They've just scheduled our calendar like every week and a half through
That's your
August.
question. Is there any discussion regarding doing recycling for businesses? That's a huge source of recycling material that we are just not capturing because we do not have a recycling program for businesses. Is there ever been a discussion in any?
We have not gotten into that specificity yet on that, but I'll check.
Could you bring that
Melissa's
up?
listening somewhere. We'll check on that.
Okay, because the hundreds of thousands of bottles and cans and things that are discarded by all the bars and restaurants alone, just it's such a shame that we don't capture that material.
Not at all. We don't. You sure we don't capture that at all?
Do not.
Not at all.
Yeah, but I think the last time we tried to talk about this, the waste companies are now struggling with
Where to put it.
where to put recyclable. So no one's in the market for it anymore because it's not as.
Must have found a place between.
No, and that's not what I've heard. So I'm saying I know what you're saying is true, but even the people who are recycling don't want to recycle anymore.
Yeah,
I know, but we really need to be better about this. More responsible. So if you could just.
I will. Yes.
Maybe even find out what they're doing.
See, once upon a time we owned dumps, and once upon a time we took the garbage in. Then we decided to send it out to these other people so they could do a better job. Now they're saying we can't even do the job.
Yeah. I will get back to you on that. I'm moving along now. Okay.
Thank you.
So our waste guy, I really appreciate where you've taken waste in this city. That's remarkable.
Thank you, Commissioner. I really appreciate it.
I'll never look at waste the same.
I would hope not. Thank you. Eventually, Phil, I would love for us to get an update and talk about at a commission meeting about the Levitt Pavilion downtown. That would be great. At Esplanade, huh? Well, no, we just need to get an update on that for sure. It's been a long time.
It's been a
I
minute.
have
Yeah.
talked
Was
to
the
Phil about
commissioner
that
the
and
first
Courtney. It's been a long time, many years. So would love to see that moving along. As I mentioned earlier this evening on our budget items, undergrounding, not just for Las Olas Isles, but for all of the neighborhoods that have been waiting for a long time. We've got to meet with all of these neighborhoods. We've got to get on a schedule. We've got to get this rolling. So that's not just Las Olas Isles. It's Riviera Isles. It's Idlewild. It's Seven Isles. I believe it's even Harbor Beach in District 4. There's just a lot of interest, and people are just waiting. So I would love to see us step that up. And moving down to, I've been hearing a lot of, people have been speaking to me about the possibility of Stonewall leaving ArtServe. Chris, if we can get a report on that, if we can sort of check into that and see what the issues are.
What's happening?
Because we manage that building.
What's happened is that, when the Stonewall Library was first moved there, this was during Commissioner Rodstrom's tenure as District 2 Commissioner. There was an effort to try to allow them to be there at a nominal rate because they made over $500,000 investment in the building in order to establish their library. As years have gone by, they continue to operate there, and And the city has always reserved the right to review every lease before there are any changes made to the any lease agreement. The ArtServe people decided, well, they want to up the rent, and they've decided they want to quadruple the rent, and they feel that they should be paying as a market rate tenant, even though it was never intended that they would be paying as market rate because of the investment in the property and because they are a nonprofit and they don't generate those kinds of funds, those kinds of monies. So now there's a standoff, and it really is ultimately the decision of this commission to approve any lease changes. So that's the status right now.
Do we have a timeline for all this coming?
I don't
or-
think there's a timeline at all. It
Okay.
hasn't been presented to us, and I spoke with the executive director of ArtServe and just said, we've got to put our heads together. If you want to get involved with them and with Jason and talk to him about what's a reasonable accommodation there, keeping in mind that it was never intended that they would be paying market rate. They're a small library. They don't generate the kinds of money.
Right.
They want them to pay over $6,000 a month for that space. And, it's
And
just
now they're paying what?
about $1,500.
1,500.
4 times.
Yes. Okay, well, it was actually brought up to me, not even by either party, but others that are very concerned about that, leaving that site from the convention. Now it's called Visit Lauderdale. But, okay, great. So
So is that building ours?
the county owns it, I believe, but we manage it.
We own the land.
We
No, I know what I'm talking about because that's why I'm trying to figure out how we can get through it. So county owns the building, right?
They own and operate the building.
They operate it.
We own the land, and but there are all kinds of.
Because if we owned it, we can just do what we do with other nonprofits, $1. So all those libraries are once county libraries. They close, but they're still owned and operated by the county. Maybe we need to
So if you could
call our buddy.
Well, we've pulled the mayor at your request. We went ahead and pulled the documentation. We sort of ran cold on the resolutions in 2009, so we're looking for post 2009 resolutions potentially altering what we found.
That's fine, Alan. Here's what I'm trying to do. Do we have authority to reduce the rent? Is what I'm saying. If the county's operating. So if that's not the case, then we just need to see if we can negotiate across the street. Am I correct?
Right, because we have a lease with the county. The county has a license agreement with ArtServe, and I believe there's another license agreement with, because it's actually not a lease. The only lease in existence is between us and the county.
So maybe we can look at.
We're trying to trace all the steps to get to
the document you showed me where we have to approve all new leases.
Right.
That still is.
That's in 2009. We're trying to. There should have been something after 2009. We're just not able to find it right now. So we're trying to see if that's the last iteration, the last resolution addressing the issue. If it is, it's great because we do have oversight over that.
Okay.
We're just trying to see if that's changed post 2009.
I know what you said, but I'm trying to get there faster. The county's probably like us. They're trying to get rid of some stuff, that building. We might be in a position, especially with these park bonds, that we can purchase the structure. I mean, we probably can do something faster if we get over there and express our interest in the structure and what we want to do to be able to control that lease.
Mayor,
Oh,
commissioners,
that's a good point, but I don't know if we.
if I could take you back a little bit.
Wait. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could take you back a little bit on the history of that, because I remember when all this came up the last time around. So we gave that property to the county to administer as a library back, because Fort Lauderdale used to have its own library system, and then the county took over the library system, and that's when we gave them that to use as a library. And there was significant discussion back in 2009 about us taking it back from the county's use because they were no longer using it as a library. And that was part of the original agreement when we allowed them to use it when it became the county library. So there could be a basis for us.
A reverter clause?
Yes, because it was supposed to be used as a library, and when it was no longer being used as
If we get it back, we can.
And that's what we're trying to validate because the original lease was for that to be a branch, but things subsequently changed in 2009. And that's why we suspect at some point in time something happened after 2009. So we're trying to figure that out at this point. We just ran cold on the
This is the benefit from
documentary.
having been around for so long.
Yeah, but again, a lot of
knowledge, Mr.
Yeah, but
being ancient.
a lot of people want to get rid of surplus property right now. Okay, so I think we're in a good position to get it, so we can control the destination or who's going to be in that building and those rents if it's a nonprofit that we care about.
But I believe part of that building is operating as a library.
Yeah, Stonewall.
No, not even Stonewall.
There's a small section.
A small section for the
They-
county
there-
library.
The county still reserves like a room.
And that's probably to keep that clause in there.
Exactly. No, I'm telling you, it does.
Let's pull it.
It does function
Yes.
part of that building as the county
Hold it
library.
up. Illegal library.
Illegal. Okay. Anyway, if we could just maybe work on this and figure it out
Bring it
and,
back.
and not
Yeah,
lose
I think they
Stonewall
know
Library,
that.
that'd be great.
I think they know that, which is
Okay.
why they have a small library.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But whatever we can do, it'd be nice to be able to keep.
I would love to get
See how
that building.
fast we
back.
can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And my last item, and this would be for Chris and also, I guess, Commissioner Sorensen, because people have been contacting me about the New River Castle and the Anne Murray Greenway issue. Are people working on that now? And how are we doing with that Greenway situation?
Yeah, we've got our team working on it. It's got a legal component to it, a survey component to it, and then a relationship with the neighbor component to it. The neighbor's asked to meet with me, and I'll be scheduling that, and I'll have an update for you after that occurs.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, so
Good.
Commissioner, there was a new owner of that property, started to build a fence.
I know the whole thing. I'm just wondering if we're making progress on the issue.
Yeah, I was gonna, yeah, we are.
I know the history.
Great, I was just gonna bring you up to speed what we're doing right now, but if you're good, you're good. Okay.
No, I'm good with all that. I just am hoping that we're going to
We're-
find
we're
a
working
good
on it, yeah.
resolution.
That
Yeah,
we're there.
we're working on it. We issued a
Great.
stop work order. Yeah.
Piqued my interest, but I'll let it go.
Okay.
Yes,
We
there's,
feel optimistic.
As long as that side of the room knows.
with Alan and
we-
his crack team of attorneys on it,
We feel
we're
optimistic.
gonna make it happen.
Realistically, there's a lot of work to be done. We're going back, the original plat was 1896.
Yes.
And
Remember that, Mayor?
we've ordered a title report. Unfortunately, depending on how cooperative the property owner will be, a judge may have to decide. Because it's not a park, it wasn't dedicated as a park. It can't, because technically it was a right of way. So there's a lot of conflicting things that have happened over the years, and there's a lot of work to be done before we have a resolution. So it's not going to be overnight. It's going to take a little while.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner McKenzie?
Us and the city attorney, the decree, I see it's been removed.
Yes.
Where are we with bringing the ordinance or the piece that we want to bring back to put in place of that?
We'll bring it back by resolution probably at the next meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that question every meeting.
Which decree are we talking about?
The consent decree.
To remove, that the DOJ asked us to remove with fire for meeting a certain threshold for minority and women hires, 91. So I see we expeditiously got the decree done, but I didn't hear anything else about the ordinance that we wanted to replace it with.
Okay.
It'll be by personnel policy.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. Let's see, Commissioner McKenzie and the whole commission, continue to work on Ruben Stacy, that dedication, right? I think you've been looped in, but let's see, Ruben Stacy's family would ideally like to have a dedication of the street in September, around the time they asked of maybe originally it was called the Florida Classic. I think maybe now it's the Orange.
Yeah, but let me help you out.
Sure.
That's gonna be a very busy weekend, even for me, because most of those activities take place in Miami.
Miami, yep.
What I was thinking is that I know we have to do it here,
Yep.
is that we wait for all the signage to come in, right? Have everything lit up and ready to go. We unveil it and invite the family down, because they thought they were coming here July 19th,
right,
till the other day.
Yep.
So I think there's a group here that's misleading that family to do it that weekend. That weekend would be, it wouldn't do us a good service to what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think we make it an event of its own.
Yeah.
Get the signage in place, invite the family down, give them enough notice, and they come down, they see all the signage on the street. We do the unveiling, and we do all the other stuff that we want to do as a commission, as opposed to a couple of folks here trying to get the family to come down a date that they wanna come down.
Agreed. So do you want it around that, the Florida Classic?
No. That's gonna be too much.
That's what they're
going on.
asking.
Too
So,
much.
okay, so just some other time in
Well,
September?
I think, and speaking to Ben, I think you've been speaking to him as well. By the time we get the signage up, we can determine a date certain.
The signage will be ready in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Well, not really, because the county has a piece to play in it too. For all of it, you're talking about one sign. I'm talking about having all 60-something signs on the street.
Yeah, okay, I'll defer
Am
to
I
Ben.
correct, Ben? I'd rather unveil what we're unveiling than to say we got a sign here on a.
Oh, I'm good with that. I'm just trying to figure
But
out.
I'm asking you if that's what we want to do. I don't think the Florida Classic is going to make this happen because I probably won't be there.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever works for you. I'm good. Yeah.
So when would the signs be completed and up?
So the next step, Ben Rogers, Transportation Mobility, the next step is for us to submit the resolution to Broward County Traffic Engineering. Once they get that, it could take anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks for them to get all of the signs fabricated and scheduled for installation. Right now, we have held off pending the direction if we were going to do a single intersection and unveiling at one time, or if we wanted to install all the signs at a single time.
You want to do it at one time, right?
Yeah, if you want to do all of them, I'm good with
I think
that.
that's the best way to do it.
Let's
but
do it.
We have to agree.
Yeah, I'm good.
Our deal.
I'm good. So if that's 12 weeks to fabricate.
Yeah, so
but it doesn't matter. It took us how many years to get here? 1836 to get here?
Yeah,
1936.
1930,
To get here? So to get it right and do it right, it might happen in September, but probably November. And we do it then. We do it when it's right for Ruben Stacy, not to try to make it a part of the Florida Classic football game.
Great. I'm good with that.
Absolutely. So as Commissioner McKenzie said, we'll go ahead and work with Broward County Traffic Engineering to get the signs fabricated. We also have to do a purchase order with Fast Signs or another sign company for the city signs that we have to do, and then we can figure out a date certain in the future. And then Commissioner Sorensen, we're in communication with Juan of your office today, in communication of trying to get all the logistics figured out.
Okay, they were headed down here on the 19th, the family. They were coming after
Well,
July 19th. We had nothing.
Right.
We rush.
Yeah, and I've been, you probably have, I've been communicating with Mary Russ. He's been
Yeah, so
communicating
you
with
got to
him,
give her direction.
Yeah, I gave her.
As to
yeah.
what the city's going to do, and
Yep.
they can plug into that.
Okay. That sounds great. Good. I forgot to mention, just when we were taking the moment of silence earlier about Surfside and just the tragedy there, it's just horrible. And I know we've all been getting questions, and Chris, just from a building structure standpoint, what are we as a city doing to, evaluate and mitigate our buildings?
Yeah, so one of the things I had scheduled for earlier, and he's now hung with us all day, was during the manager's report was going to ask the building official to come up and talk
He's
about
back
what
there.
he's done. So if you're good with that, we'll let John speak for just a
Yeah,
couple of
I
minutes
think
and let you know exactly what we've done and what condition our city's in and what our review has indicated.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening.
I was trying to figure out why you were hanging around.
Well, good evening to you, Mayor, and to the commission. I will kind of keep this brief. I actually made up some handouts for you to help you understand exactly what we do with our program. So, Jeff, if I can give those to you.
Does that explain Al Battle's presence tonight too? Another DSD body? Is that what it is? Or you just came to give you a pink handkerchief to Stephen Glassman to match his pink shirt? Okay. Oh.
Thank you. Broward County Building Safety Inspection Program.
What exactly are we looking at here?
Does it do page down as well? You know?
It just scrolls down.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, but we don't have a page.
A lot of paper.
So this reflects Broward County. Are we tethered to their timetable in responding to the concerns that our community has had over what is happening with regard to building inspections? Or is there a separate and independent pathway that we might consider going forward?
And it's a good question, Mayor. The program itself comes from Broward County. This is a program that is only active in 2 counties in the state of Florida, and that's Miami-Dade County and Broward County. In Miami-Dade County, it's known as the 40-year recertification program. Here in Broward County, it's known as the Building Safety Inspection Program. Pretty much looks at the 40th anniversary of when a structure gets its CO, and then every 10 years after that. And there are some descriptions in your handouts that talk about what buildings qualify and have to participate in that program. Pretty much any structure over 3,500 square feet. There are some exclusions, and that would be federal buildings, state buildings, buildings that are done on Indian reservations, and single and two-family homes. In the Broward County program, 3,500 square feet or more has to participate in this program if it's not one of those exemptions. The program was introduced in 2006 in Broward County. It goes back a little further in Miami-Dade County, back to 1975. We receive every June a list from the Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals, a list of all the buildings that are coming upon their 40th anniversary of CO or the 10-year periods after that. We then notify all those building owners that they have to have an independent architectural or engineering firm perform a building safety inspection report. They have to submit that within 90 days of that actual anniversary. And if there are corrections that are noted in that building safety inspection report, they have 180 days to begin those corrections. So the program has been operating pretty much since 2006. We've been getting those lists every year in June. It's a very active program. I actually have our Building Code Enforcement Division of Building Services that monitors and administers and manages that program all year long. We do have people that don't always turn in those reports in time, so we have a process here in the city whereby we issue a code violation to them, and we start a fine system if they don't react to that. We also take them before the magistrate, and we had about 6 or 8 buildings that we immediately looked at after the Surfside situation because they appeared not to be moving forward as fast as they should be. I analyzed everything that was included in the reports of those structures over the weekend, and we did some site visits ourselves. The biggest conclusion that we came up with was that when the reports were issued that there were corrections to be done, the corrections actually got accomplished, and the engineering firm turned in the final report to the building owners or the building managers, but they never forwarded that report to us. So that solved most of the problems. There were 2 individual problems that I actually was getting ready to take action on, but we got reports within the last 48 hours on those 2 that the corrections had been done. One of them had to do with the grounding system of a swimming pool, and that's very near and dear to me, being in the electrical side of things. I wanted to make sure it was safe for them to continue to use the pool. And the other was on some concrete railings on the balconies of one of our high-rise condominiums that had shown cracks in those concrete railings. That's also been addressed. So the program is active. We stay on top of it. And we do take our direction from Broward County. Number one, they're the ones that made the process by which this is done. They also have a checklist for both structural and electrical that is to be filled out by the independent third party, and that gets turned in to us. I would say that I have sent inspectors out pretty much on every single complaint that we've gotten since the tragedy down in Surfside. But we have gotten a lot of complaints over what I would consider to be superficial or normal maintenance items. But I'm sending people out on every single complaint that comes in just to make sure that there is nothing serious. Now, our inspectors are not engineer experts, but they do have the ability, and their experience can help them identify whether or not there's a serious issue or whether it's a cosmetic or a maintenance issue that can be corrected. If there's any question about the integrity of either the electrical system or the structural system, we immediately let the management team know that they have to follow through with an engineer's report on that. Now, most of these complaints that are coming to us are not coming from those buildings that are participating in the 40-year safety building inspection program right now. These are just people that live in those buildings that have seen cracks or that have seen rust or corrosion. They may not even be in a building that's eligible for that, but we're still following up on all of those complaints. So that's pretty much the way that the program is administered, and I just wanted to let everybody here know that we're taking every single complaint seriously and we're acting on it. We did have a Senate bill that passed and was signed by the governor on June the 29th that says that we are not to be taking anonymous complaints anymore, that we have to have somebody actually give us a name and a number. But there was a clause in that that said, unless there is some imminent danger to life safety, then we can still take an anonymous complaint, and we're maintaining that. We're going out on every one of these, sir.
But let me just ask you, those 40-year inspections have defined scope. They aren't so broad as to suggest that you should be going underground and inspecting pilings and inspecting structural aspects of a building. Aren't they just mostly above ground electrical, plumbing, visible cracks from a person's
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, they're limited to structural and electrical. There are no mechanical requirements in the program. There are no plumbing requirements.
No plumbing?
No, sir.
How about sprinklers and fire suppression? Does the 40-year inspection require that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't require any check on that. Under the electrical, it does require a check on the fire alarm system if there is a fire alarm in there. But currently, the way that the program is set up doesn't mandate any inspections on fire sprinkler systems. But I do need to let you know that on July 19th, I think we're scheduled to meet. I am on the subcommittee, the structural subcommittee for the Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals. We are scheduled to meet to talk about the current building safety inspection program and to see whether or not we need to look at adding some additional contingencies to that. One of them specifically that I've already mentioned is that with all of our properties so near the coast, we do need to possibly look into a geotechnical portion that needs to be added to that to make sure that the underground structure, the underground surfaces are still viable surfaces to support the building.
So what happens if the county decides to take a pass on that? Is that something, Alan, that the city of Fort Lauderdale can do independently of whatever the county's inspection program would encompass?
I couldn't answer that right now.
I can't hear you.
I couldn't answer that right now, but we can certainly look into it.
In other words, are we preempted from doing further inspections beyond what the scope of inspections would be from the state?
Well, we can inspect the inspection's not so much the issue as to what authority we would have to require the remedial action. So we can look into that.
Here comes Anthony.
And Mayor,
Oh.
you mentioned the sprinkler systems, but unfortunately, many, if not almost all, of the 40-year-old buildings don't have sprinkler systems, and that's been a huge contentious issue in the state legislature for many years now.
I know.
About the state trying to force the older buildings to actually install those sprinkler systems. That's been.
I know every year the state's been giving a waiver, but I think those waivers have stopped. If I'm not, do you know anything about the waivers on the retrofitting?
Yeah,
of
what
the
you're
sprinkler
speaking about is the requirement to retrofit existing high-rises with fire sprinkler systems. And every time that threshold date arrives, there's a move to kick it forward.
Right.
I believe what we're at right now is that threshold date is 2023. And I did want to mention that this program is administered by the Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals. They specialize, or they actually change Chapter 1 of the Florida Building Code. So we actually have a Broward County edition of the Florida Building Code in Chapter 1. It appears in Section 110 for these building safety reports. And if you look in the generic Florida Building Code for all the rest of the municipalities in the state of Florida, you do not see the requirement for the 40-year safety inspection report or the 40-year recertification report as it's known in Miami-Dade County.
Right. But again, I guess if you can come back to us at some point and ask, by answering the question, if we're preempted from enhancing inspection requirements as opposed to relying simply on what the county or the state otherwise would have us do. That would be important. I know people are asking us that.
I mean, it would seem like, Mayor, we could inspect. To Alan's point, we might not have the enforcement mechanism, but at minimum, it seems like we could inspect.
But I think the building official is saying, even with the governor's order now saying not to take the anonymous calls, every call he gets, we're inspecting. So we're doing that right now. I think, and again, his inspectors are not engineers that they can say a building's unsafe, but they can look and say this might be an issue, bring in an engineer. And I think, just based on my knowledge, and the 40-year inspections, because we've been doing it since '06, has put us ahead of the curve. And my question would be more so on the side that what happens if it's my condo and we decide not to give you that report and then we don't do the work? That what happens then to that building?
Then there is a code case that's issued and a daily fine is accrued and it goes before the special magistrate. And I would remind everybody that we actually don't do the 40-year building safety inspections. We only look at the reports that are prepared by the third-party engineer or architectural firm.
Right.
We just don't have
And that's what I wanted you
tools.
to point out, because you're telling the outside firm to go do it. And the same thing happened in Miami. They went down, they did the reports. Sometimes they get caught up with condo boards. He gets caught up with in a review. A bunch of instances that we saw down here came into play, but we'll get to the bottom of that one. But I think because we're doing it here, we're ahead of the curve. And I think if we go a deeper dive, like you mentioned, and the mayor, which is going in the ground, as he referred to it, you referred to it as GEO, which is another engineering company that comes in and looks at the soil to make sure that nothing's happening underground that would cause that building to crumble and fall down. So that would be a third report that we probably could look into bringing to the Board of Appeals to see if that's something that we can do. Because I don't know if we can preempt it based on how we are governed by the Florida Building Code and then Broward County's building code, and then we have our own city ordinances, but we fall under the auspices of those two in terms of how we permit a use or occupancy of a building.
And I would say to the city attorney that there is a provision in the Florida Building Code that says where this code and another code or an adopted ordinance do not agree with each other, the more stringent of the two will take place. So that might help us out in determining whether
That's a good thing, okay? But I'm just saying, are we tethered to other governments, and do they preempt us, or the fact that they don't regulate a certain area, does that give us the opportunity to embrace those other areas and try to require inspections in places that are not currently required under the 40-year rule?
I would be happy to work with the city attorney in order to try and come up with an answer for you, sir.
Thank you.
Another reason,
South Florida has one of the most stringent codes there is in terms of building because of our coastline and our hurricanes and the things of that nature.
Well,
So
the building code, yeah, but I mean, they still have limited scope, these 40-year safety inspections.
yeah, but we were smart enough to go and do something in 2006 in Miami in 70, so that we thought about this. Somebody thought about it, and now in the older buildings, I mean, my sister just went through this with their building, but they jumped on top of it, and they're still in the fourth year, Steve, of doing all of the work to it, and they all complained about not doing it at first because they got assessed $24,000 a piece, but now they're saying it's the best investment ever made.
Unfortunately, though, many of the buildings, especially the ones that we're talking about now for 40-year inspections, were all built under the old codes pre-Hurricane Andrew.
Right.
And that's the problem. The
Right.
codes became much more stringent after Hurricane Andrew.
Right.
So any building, probably I would say from 2000 on, is built under much different code than pre-2000.
Right.
Because it took a bunch of years after Andrew to get the codes all changed.
All right.
Well,
So
that's one of my
But
questions.
those are good questions, though. They're good.
Right, yeah. And that's one of my questions is because I know there was this sea change after Hurricane Andrew. Is, in your view, is 40 years too long for an initial inspection?
So there has been discussion, should it be 30, should it be 20?
30, yeah.
And that's one of the things that we are going to discuss in the meeting later on in July. And then just as one final thing, I would remind everybody here that a lot of what used to be in what we called our South Florida Building Code, which was enacted in 1957, migrated into the Florida Building Code, but only for two counties, Miami-Dade County and Broward County. None of the other counties participate in the high-velocity hurricane zone protocols that we require for our buildings because we know what happens when hurricanes come.
So no other counties have?
No other county participates in that program but us and Miami-Dade.
Only two.
Crazy.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. That helps, Mayor. Mayor,
And our insurance rates are higher than all the others, so go figure.
Mayor, I just have one other question. Is there a New River crossing meeting or group
I'm
that's
having
been
a meeting tomorrow
formed?
with tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with FDOT, right? Yeah, to talk to them about their preliminary investigation as to costs for bridge versus tunnel. I asked for that meeting just to give me a heads up as to where their heads were at, but there's no like formal meeting out in the public. It's
Okay.
just a fact.
Okay. Have neighbors been invited to this? Like neighborhood leaders and?
That will happen down the road as we try to, I'm trying to get for myself some feedback from the community, how people think about what we're trying to do for the New River crossing if we're going to go ahead and do this coastal link train. And so I'm trying to talk to community leaders. I'm trying to, get feedback because I know FDOT is going to be doing the same thing. So I'd like to kind of hear what people are going to be saying. So it's really it's something I'm just doing personally, which you could do yourself. Everybody.
No, you can do it. So there are going to be community leaders there tomorrow at your meeting?
Scott, are they going to be community leaders there tomorrow?
Because just a bunch of people asked me, Mayor, they felt like they're.
Meetings, you have another 1:30, and you invited a select group of people who then will take it to a broader group in the community.
Okay, so I have the two meetings. I didn't know that the second meeting was tomorrow also. So I have one meeting in the morning with FDOT and then another meeting with certain community leaders that I asked to speak to.
Okay, just some of the HOA presidents are feeling excluded from that second, just
I
FYI.
say that 90% of the world was excluded because I can't accommodate everybody, but at some point I would like to go.
Okay, just sharing feedback.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Feedback.
your
The
I mean, I just wanted to start with a few people, and then I'll continue to reach out to the community, because it's cumbersome to ask for 50 people to come when I really need to talk with 3 or 4 at a time.
Okay, great, thanks.
Is that it?
That's all I've got. Yep.
You're the only one left. If you
Thanks.
said if you wave yours, we're good.
Not so fast. I just have a couple things. I'm not going to go through all the things that I attended, but you mentioned a lot of the things that let's talk about citizen recognition. We haven't really done one since 2019. We skipped last year. I do think we should begin the process again, re-energize the committee, and ask them to come back. Perhaps we can give 2 years worth of honors if possible, last year and this year. Any thoughts on that? Make sense?
Have they met at all,
No.
the advisory
they haven't.
committee? No?
I don't think so.
Well, they should.
So I think we should ask them to reconvene and
Yep.
come up with names for last year and this year. Okay. The other stuff.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, Scott was talking to me. What did you do? What was decided there? Just so I know what the takeaway was with citizen recognition.
They need to reconvene.
So to reconvene the
reconvene
meeting,
and ask
reconvene the
them-
board, and ask them to
ask
come
them
up
for
with
2
names
years?
2020 and 2021.
Okay, that'll be a very fast process, but we'll
Okay.
in order to make that happen, but we can start there.
Okay. Very good. Anything else?
That's it?
The conference meeting is concluded.
Happy summer. Happy summer.
Summer, everybody.
Happy summer.